Chapter 977, A Shrew's Pep Talk. Chapter 977, A Shrew's Pep Talk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom. There was this space where golden flames licked every inch, with heat turned so high you'd bake, and a constant crackling sounded, as if the earth itself was cooked. Bolts of purple lightning flashed all around, briefly interrupted by the appearance of a 100-meter large bird. It released violent flashes at the dangerous golden flames, erasing them in a terrifying explosion, but as the golden flames around vanished, what stood in their place was a 300-meter dragon, towering like a mountain with its huge, eyes-showing pride whoosh. The purple bird landed, then it turned into a 7-year-old girl, looking curiously at the large creature. Dragon ancestor, is today's training over? That was fast. Ha ha ha, it is, since we have guests. The dragon's rumbling laughter sounded. Then one sharp talon swept the air ripped, and showed a bright sun on the other side, and a mild wind rustling the trees around a creek. But also a very familiar man, he entered into this space and smiled. Dragon ancestor sure is amazing. I just came and you already noticed. Father. The adorable girl lit up and jumped in the man's arms. Joyfully the man staggered, but hugged the girl back with laughter. Chower, it's been so long. I see you had been doing great in here. Father, did you come for me? Chower's eyes sparkled with childish hope. Juefan rubbed her head with sorrow, shaking his head. It's not up to me when you can leave. Dragon ancestor has the last say. He will let you go once he believes you have the strength to hold your own in the big world outside. Dragon ancestor, can I go with father? I've learned all you've taught me. Chower swished her head around to the huge dragon. With a puppy, look, these 2 years away from Juefan had been like ages to her, and she had missed her father. Dearly dragon ancestor stared hard at Juefan instead. Kid, it can't be you came all this way just to catch up. What happened? Dragon ancestor is amazing yet again. I just can't hide anything from your discerning eye. Juefan showed a trace of sorrow. Then he flicked his hand, and young Sanzi's feeble body appeared. Chower saw Gu Santong so weary and cried, What happened to brother? Chilin. Dragon ancestor saw young Sanzi for the first time, but one look was enough to recognize his origins. Tell me what happened. Juefan sighed and nodded with a heavy look as he retold the events he went through the last couple of years, finishing with, I didn't know the sacred weapons had such power over sacred beasts. It's my mistake. Now that I know where Heaven Sealing CAO is, Kunpeng said that with you two seal on young Sanzi's soul and body, it will keep him stable until I find CAO to save him. Oh, Kunpeng isn't wrong about that. Heaven Sealing CAO can handle this. Dragon ancestor nodded, and his eyes shone. His huge claw shot forth, and golden flames fell on young Sanzi's body like stars. On his main acupoints, dragon ancestor placed the claw over young Sanzi and let the golden flames cover him. Letting its power seep into him, young Sanzi began to show a golden glow this time, covering him completely, and the child's cheeks slipped a healthier pink. Dragon ancestor sighed. The little Chilin will be fine for a while. Take him to CAO, but you need to exercise extreme caution around that guy. He hates humans with a passion. When you do finally meet him, you won't even get the chance to speak before the old bastard would splatter you. The young Chilin will be left for dead, and you'll become a bloody stain under his palm. He's still wild and can't speak. No, he just doesn't trust human words. Dragon ancestor sighed. He lost one of his eyes to a human, and healing it proved difficult. This is why he sees humans as bitter enemies, making him go mad. Juefan's eyes shook. A human took his eye? Who? Sword Sovereign. Dragon ancestor let out a long sigh. You must be fast to explain your purpose, or maybe just throw little Chilin over without even talking. I don't think you'll even have time to get even one word out before you become his meal. Juefan was stunned and gave a hard nod with a grim look. Sacred beasts were the strongest in this world, needing but an instant to kill anyone, even if sealed in the mortal domain. With CAO killing any human he saw, talking would be pointless. It dawned on him just how risky his search had now become. Chower picked up on the dangers around this task and said, "Dragon Ancestor, then I can just go with Father and help him." "Don't argue. It's too dangerous this time. Anything could happen going against a crazed sacred beast. Young Sanzi is bad enough. I can't have you hurt as well." Joie Fan refused on the spot. Dragon Ancestor actually took Chow aside. "This time she can go. Maybe she can really help you in this. She is a fledgling sacred beast, and that old CEO might give you some time on account of her. Enough to state your purpose. And Chower is strong enough to help you out as well, while also turning this trip into a learning experience for her." Chower skipped with glee, and Juefan gave a weak nod. After a long pause, he knew Dragon Ancestor had put a lot of work in Chower and was not just about to give her up. What was the point of the last 2 years of training, anyway? Dragon Ancestor must be convinced she could go out. And if he thought so, then Juefan had no reason to doubt the old dragon's judgment. Juefan reached out his hand, his tone as earnest as he knew how. "Senior Dragon Ancestor, this is a serious matter. Could you spare some assistance for this noble cause? What's with you? Could you possibly give me, say, 10 more dragon breath pills?" Blinking his big purty eyes, Juefan begged without qualms. "Facing that lunatic, I'll need further assistance. Facing a sacred beast without Dragon Ancestors, much needed support will wring my little life dry from these feeble bones. I ask Dragon Ancestor to think of the end goal and give me all the help you can. If not 10, 5 will do just as fine." Dragon Ancestor's big eye twitched, giving a wry smile. "Kid, funny you should mention the end goal when you used one of my dragon breath pill on that nobody sect in the mortal domain. Did you forget how each of them is an all-out attack from me? With me stuck in the mortal domain and unable to recover my energy, you think I can pop out dragon breath pills like candy? Those 3 were the limit of my reserves. Yet you, rotten good for nothing actually." "Oh, fine, I get it." Juefan gave a dismissive wave and grinned. "I know you're stuck here, but think of young Sanzi's future. Is Senior that cold to the child's fate? And even if you are, you should at least value him for being on the Sacred Beast team in the final battle. He's clearly a valuable asset. Are you just going to let him pass on?" "Humph! Kuimping is so treacherous." Aware of the danger CAO posed but never mentioned it. Yet, even so, he still had a 9th-level spiritual beast come with me to help on this journey. While you go on and on about how he sold you guys out, but won't that make you worse than him since you aren't giving one measly help?" Juefan gave him a scornful look, making the Dragon Ancestor snap at him in annoyance. "You say I'm worse than him? Humph! So he got the all-beast mountain range, yet only sent some 9th-level spiritual beast? In here, I'm the only one left, or I would have had an army go with you. Bragging much? Actions speak louder than words." Juefan taunted, groaning inside. Dragon Ancestor gnashed his fangs and spewed out 10 golden balls the size of a hand. He then started wheezing. "Kid, don't ever say I didn't help you. These small dragon breath pills are all that's left, and you'll have to make do. They can't handle the old monster, but you can still use them to clear your path. This is all I can do to help." Humph. Chapter 978. Full Support. Chapter 978. Full Support. Proofreader, Papatonks. "Thank you so much, Dragon Ancestor. I've gone overboard just now." Looking at those now weary eyes, Juefan expressed his gratitude and turned to Chower. "Take the 10 small dragon breath pills and take care of yourself." Juefan placed young Sanzi in his ring and walked for the exit. Chower bobbed her cute head and placed the golden fireballs in her own ring before following after her dad. Dragon Ancestor shook as he watched Juefan's smug figure. "The kid cheated me out of those 10 dragon breath pills, though not for himself, but for Chower. What happened to the little Cheelin has served as a hard lesson. He really does see those beasts as his son and daughter. A human. CAO. Did you ever think that a human would care so much for a spiritual beast?" Ack. Juefan suddenly felt his left eye flicker with the black thunder flame and held it in pain as it bled. Father, what's wrong? Chower cried in concern. Fan shook his head, but the dragon ancestor knew. Kid, try to use that eye less. Father's eye. Chowa looked at dragon ancestor puzzled. Dragon ancestor, what's wrong with father's eye? The dragon stared at Fan, who needed a bit of time before recovering. He wiped the blood from his eye and forced a smile. Thank you, dragon ancestor, for your care. I'm fine. Fine. Dragon ancestor scoffed. You know exactly how fine it is, better than me. The danger that I pose isn't just to your opponents. I'm certain you noticed from the start. The apocalyptic thunderflame eye's greatest difference from heavenly sovereign's purple lightning golden eye isn't its great power, but volatility. You think the fusion of 4 sacred beast powers is that easy to handle? Keep playing with fire, and you'll only get burned. Fan's eyes shook, but then put on a stoic look. This I saved me and young Sanzi. If next time it will burn me, I'll be sure to drag the enemy down with me. Grinning, Fan pulled Chower's hand and left the space. To the world outside, dragon ancestor remained behind with a speechless look. The demonic cultivator, Brat, actually knows the value of sacrifice. He looks more and more like 9 serenities. Is it the cultivation method or the inheritance, or maybe... Fan rushed towards the North Sea with his daughter, while the other 3 lands got Northern Land's call for help. The Central Area's empire was on the move at Double Dragon Manor. The 9 sects of Western lands had gathered at Heaven-reaching Pavilion, all sporting heavy looks. This time's meeting was a complete shuffle from the one 2 years ago, with 5 sects laid to waste. New powers came out of the woodwork to fill the gap. Despite being weaker, they had the support of Double Dragon Manor to speed up their growth. One in particular among these new up-and-comers was quite eye-catching with its constant expansion of power. The Luo alliance, hailing from the Tianyu Empire, the head of power in this faction, was the top clan in Tianyu. Luo clan, no one had any inkling how on earth this no-name clan even got to experience such unprecedented growth. Not even Double Dragon Manor could explain it in just 2 short years. It went from the previous top lower 3 sect power to being a middle 3 sect in strength. It simply dwarfed those other new factions that didn't even have a third of a lower 3 sect strength. It was the brightest star in the whole of Western lands, and that was just the start. What made the Luo alliance so incredible and worthy of everyone's respect was its sudden rise being completely different from the Sword Star Empire's imperial family's reign. What was similar was how they were not like sects, only focused on cultivation, and ignoring the people around the Luo alliance and the Sword Star Empire were similar in how they were made up of people from all walks of life, from farmers to officials. At its core was a military clan, leading troops to gain new lands. The alliance had all grounds covered with the help of its generals and strategists, covering up both the power and the governing aspects, much like a small empire, an empire that was growing by the day. It actually got so good when it came to military matters that the Western lands' military aspects had the Luo alliance in charge of them. Some even believed that, if not for the Sword Star Empire having the entire central area in its grasp and threatening the other 4 lands, the Luo alliance's mild and nurturing environment would lead it to become just another behemoth, alas. It's had no place in this world. The Sword Star Empire was the strongest, bar none, drawing the fledgling Luo alliance into becoming a member of the ever-growing resistance against their onslaught, and making its future uncertain. As with all things, only the first would go down in history, while the second would be forever swallowed by the forgotten ages. In many instances, there was only one victor, with the second plagued with mediocrity. It would either surpass the first or forever be in his shadow. This painted the Luo clan's awkward situation. It had the potential to become a second Sword Star Empire, but not the time. One needed time. Fate and luck. Fan had laid the groundwork for them to build on. But not even he could fight the world's nature. The timing to hold a land for itself had passed, and now they had to wait for the next. The people had gathered in a narrow room, with Luo Yinhai, the alliance leader, flanked by Zhuge Changfeng and Leng Wuchang. As he frowned and thought at everyone, the exalted double dragons had taken the main seats with heavy looks, holding a jade slip and pensive. Exalted He, Ran began at last. People, I have called for you today, elders, venerables, sect leaders, and clan leaders, to discuss a very sensitive and important topic. Swordstar Empire is on the move. What? Everyone tense at the grave news, throwing the room in chaos from their loud attempts at finding more from the ones next to them. Only Luo Yunhai's team remained firm and silent, more like find nothing. These sect's decrepit fools have no idea what it means to have someone stab you in the back. They did not have the calmness required by war, eyeing them coldly. Lung Wucheng and Zhuge Chongfeng shook their heads ahem. Exalted, Bai Mei cleared his voice and said, I have good news and bad news. The good news, Eastern Land Shangguan clan head has succeeded in retrieving the soaring sword from the traitorous Shangguan Feiyun. The bad news, not long ago, the strongest in Northern Lands had fought with the North Sea Demon and suffered grave injuries. Swordstar Empires capitalized on this and is now marching on Northern Lands to plunder the heaven-sealing divine sword. The Seabright sect is calling for help from everywhere, hoping to unite against the Central Area's assault. Exalted, who are they sending in this time for the Northern Lands to be so desperate to ask for help? One man asked Exalted. Hey, Rant's eyes grew dark. 16 people have entered Northern Lands. The one leading the juniors is Sword Star's Crown Prince, to temper himself, while Invincible Sword leads the other. Bailey Yutian. SS. Everyone gasped from shock. The monster comes out himself? No wonder Northern Lands are in panic. Exalted. Hey, Rand sighed. That's the least of our problems. Bailey Yutian isn't alone, having with him 5 Sword Kings of the Bailey clan. Oh, right, you must have only heard of this title used in Swordstar Empire, but don't know their power. Then here it is. Our strongest man, Dan Qingshin, is now the dragon cleaving Sword King of the Central Area. He's a Sword King. Yes. In other words, every Sword King is on Dan Qingshin's level at least. There are 8 more beside him that are defending the Central Area, and above them stand Invincible Sword, Bailey Yutian. Exalted. Hey, Rant's eyes shook and gnashed his teeth. I never even realized how Swordstar Empire has gotten so strong. Bailey Yutian aside, now the Empire has grown so strong it will make even the 4 Lands Alliance experience heavy losses in a war. Everyone started and paled. How did one even begin to fight that? And their Western Lands had just lost 5 sects 2 years ago, becoming the weakest area. They would suffer even more in such a war. Only Luo Yunhai's eyes shone and cupped his hands. Exalted, what are your thoughts regarding Northern Lands' plea? The Exalted gave him a long look and nodded inside. The Luo clan is amazing indeed to have that kid come from them. All the other sect elders were looking scared for their lives at such grave news, while only the Luo clan was firm, thinking of the next step, a true military clan. Chapter 979, Lucky Charm. Chapter 979, Lucky Charm. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo clan head, after we finish the meeting, us too will take half of Double Dragon Manor's experts along with Yi Lin and the other outstanding disciples to help Northern Lands and stop Invincible Sword's savage power from lighting the whole area on fire. Exalted. Hey, Rand spoke after a pause. Luo Yunhai pondered and then shook his head. Double Dragon Manor is the cornerstone of Western Lands' power. Taking half of that will leave it an empty shell. The odds are high for the Swordstar Empire to use this to his advantage by luring out our forces. Here, here, Exalted, please don't go. We can't just give up our own home just for the Northern Lands people. One elder jumped to his feet and cupped his hands. A Hellion Flame elder, Luo Yuhai, did not let the Exalted speak, continuing, but not going isn't an option either. After they take the heaven sealing sword, they'll fix their eyes on us. How long do you think we'll last? What's worse, by not answering the call for help will make the 4 Land Alliance moot, with neither believing the other. Won't that also fall in the enemy's plan? Ugh. The elder deflated as he said, Luo clan head, you've been talking all this time, but where are you going with this? We can't save, but must save. Are you just running your mouth? Not at all. Lung Wucheng smiled. I ask that elder understands these aren't mere ramblings, but clan heads' speculations of the situation. Only through analysis of the matter at hand can we take the right course of action. And how we act isn't our clan head's call, but the exalted. My clan head is only giving advice, ha ha ha. The man's face twitched, having just gotten served, but anger got the best of him, evident by the forceful tone. There's no end to shrewd men from the Luo clan I see, knowing how to weave words. Then I won't spend my time with you. Please, we're simply stating facts, ha 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 lung. Wu Chang spoke, exalted He. Ran gave him a sharp look, then his firm voice echoed. It's true. I almost forgot how Luo clan has many sharp minds. I would like to ask your counsel about such a complicated problem. I dare presume you to be the two of Luo Alliance's 3 sages, Lung Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng, Sir Lung and Steward Zhuge? Exalted, you honor us. The 2 stood and bowed with wide smiles. Exalted by Mei nodded. Going by your judgment, what do you 2 think we should do next? They shared a smile, and Zhuge Changfeng took the lead to explain. Exalted, our clan head has been more than clear. By ignoring the Northern Land's plea, our safety will be short-lived, followed by losing everyone's respect. On the other hand, jumping to its rescue will invite disaster. Danger will come to the Western Lands regardless, sooner or later. I could only defer to Exalted's decision. Zhuge Changfeng hadn't been a prime minister for nothing. His speech was flawless. He was getting one abundantly clear point across. We're here to dish advice. You're the one calling the shots, especially since both paths are fraught with danger. Don't come to us to settle your problems. We've already given you an early reminder, but you wouldn't listen. Steward Zhuge, your reputation precedes you, ha ha ha. Exalted read between the lines and chuckled. He's still hanging it over us. Sigh, just why are we making the call? This would absolve the Luo clan of any responsibility for when everything went south. Double Dragon Manor just lost a scapegoat, ha ha ha. Now I see how the tiny clan experienced exponential growth. Not even the gatekeeper is average. Sighing, the 2 faced the problem once more, now with a little more clarity. By assisting Northern Lands, their own home would be left empty, ripe for the taking. But that was just a short-term loss. While the alliance would stay strong while ignoring Northern Lands' plea was the knee-jerk reaction, giving them a short respite of safety while losing the trust of the other lands, making the next time they fought the central area that much harder. Exalted's eyes shone, having come to a decision. We go to Northern Lands' rescue. I shall leave our home's safety in everyone's hands, especially the Luo Alliance and their skilled military conduct. You are to be vigilant against the central area and take full responsibility and authority. Exalted, we will. Luo Yinhai cupped his hands. Double Dragon Manor had made its decision, or to be more particular about it, it had been made since the start. They only called this meeting to get them all along with it. Lest someone got any bright ideas and screwed everything up, the 2 had yet to leave as an aged hand was raised. Exalted sirs, I wish to report something. What? Exalted He Ran spoke. Your ultimate clarity sex, Elder Su, right? What's so urgent that you need to tell us? The elder stood up, revealing him to be the same man that had met with Zhuo Fan on his trip to Ultimate Clarity Sect. Looking hesitant, the old man frowned as he muttered, Exalted sirs, something of great importance must be shared with you and everyone else. I ask that you refrain from testing everyone you meet in your journeys, lest you invite disaster. What are you yapping about, you old coot? Spit it out already. The other seated men started getting annoyed with his drawling the elder side and said something that had everyone's eyes bugged out. A disciple of Devil Mountain has appeared again. SSS. A unanimous gasp resounded throughout the room, with everyone freezing on their spots, more panicked than even hearing of Invincible Sword and the 9 Sword Kings 2 years ago. The Western lands had been quaking with the news of a one Overlord 9 Serenity's power. Now, Devil Mountain had sent another of their disciples into the world, and they couldn't have picked a worse time, 2 hearts racing in their chests, trying to gulp down their anxiety. They, along with Exalted, would really like to avoid having to meet that dreaded old freak again. Even more so than Invincible Sword. Old Coot, are you certain? Don't scare us now. With all wiping their ever-soaking brows, some in particular were getting panicky. These were all people who liked causing a scene. They were mavericks through and through. But circumstances called for them to bend a knee and be nice for a change, lest they would like to feel the wrath and destruction that got 5 secs wiped off the face of this world on their very skin. They had no concept of turning the other cheek, not when they enjoyed striking first. The only ones that had their blood run cold weren't stronger and nice folks, but those worse than them. It was safe to say Devil Mountain was such an abomination, a pit of demons that would destroy them. And then some, at the mere sight of any of their disciples. Last time Juafan's display had the sex stirring at Double Dragon Gathering, making the Overlord 9 Serenities come out to wreck 5 sections. Now that another disciple showed up, what were they supposed to do? Well, utterly confused, fear dominated among these men. Exalted Hay ran, snapped at the elder. "Speak clearly and in detail, man." Gulping hard, the man nodded and presented his full report. Everyone was rendered speechless once he finished. "Oh hell, the guy's even riding a 9th level. Yep, he's from Devil Mountain, all right. Only that weird place has such freaks. It's also clear Overlord 9 Serenities learned his lesson last time and sent a freaky spiritual beast to safeguard his disciples. Western lands sects had better tuck their tails or else." Exalted Hay ran, cleared his voice, and mumbled, "By May end I will be leaving in a few days. The rest of you need to behave while we're gone. Screw you. You're leaving awfully fast now that you know Devil Mountain is out again. You just can't wait to save Northern lands from Invincible Sword? At least you can fight him, while Overlord 9 Serenities is impossible to even touch. Those scheming old coots." The Exalted got only dirty looks from the rest. Also, we're taking Ching Ching as well. As a core disciple, it's good for her to learn about the world. Ha ha ha. Exalted by May shouted with a dry laugh. "To hell with you. You old geezers are taking even the lucky charm with you. But what about us?" Everyone's faces twitched, with the whole of Western lands knowing that Devil Mountain was only ever nice with the widow Chu Ching Ching with her along. On the off chance they stepped on Devil Mountain's toes, they were safe behind her. Under her shield of love, these 2 old coots would be mighty relaxed, earning everyone else's ire, of course. At a crater of a volcano in the southern lands, a girl was holding a jade slip while looking around. She handed the slip to a man with soaked eyebrows and said, "Brother, Northern lands is calling for help. Bring me the decimating sword." You're not even asking for details. Our 4 lands alliance is a promise set in stone. There's no need to doubt it. The large man spoke calmly as he left. Murong Shue watched his back with a smile and turned her bright eyes northbound. "You just came back, and now you're leaving." A scarlet sword whirled through a heavy snowstorm, with 3 old men surrounding it and making hand signs. Shengguan Feixiong rushed over nervously. "It's still sealed." "I don't know what that boy did to it, but not even us 3 together can't unseal its sword spirit. Blast it, I knew he gave up the sword too easily. He screwed us over." Shengguan Feixiong raged. "Damn you, Gu Yifan! What damn use do I have for this useless thing after you sealed its spirit? How am I supposed to fight Invincible Sword now? Once I get my hands on you, I'll tear you to pieces." Shangguan Feixiong gnashed his teeth with Shangguan Qingyan's sign nearby. Her eyes filled with longing. She had no idea Juafan was on a mad dash to the cold north as well. Chapter 980, Northern Lands. Chapter 980, Northern Lands. Proofreader, Papatonks. Northern Lands, the northest area among the 5, had 80% of it composed of a huge sea, battered by ice and snow all year round. A world of bitter cold, this harsh environment led to few sects or cultivating clans due to the sparse resources, including spirit mines. What this land had that no other did, however, was the wondrous and many miraculous ingredients found behind those savage waves. This made it all the worthwhile for humans to consider this harsh region their home. Filled with the prospects of unearthing the sea's next great miracle. The results proved to be of great satisfaction to them as well. As with how rare the baubles found on the seabed were, the northern lands became the main supplier to the world's rarest items. What topped them all was the North Sea gel, coming out of the watery abyss at some point and hailed as a wonder cure for anything and every known ailment. It was worth fighting and even dying for. The only problem was a sea demon was guarding it, making getting it all the more difficult and deadly with the strong sea demon's sudden appearance. Their access to the sea was cut off, making it dangerous to even access the usual mining or hunting fishing spots out at sea. This spelled disaster for the northern lands, especially how barren it was to begin with. They were left to watch the glittering jewels behind a tempered glass, and with a buffed guard in front of it for every venture into the sea would exact a terrible price whenever the sea demon appeared, making it a miracle if even a tenth survived for the good of all the cultivators in northern lands. Sea Bright Sek's strongest, Ouyang Ling Tian, had not long ago taken the greatest treasure of northern lands, the heaven-sealing divine sword, to challenge the savage sea demon and settle things. Once and for all, the hero everyone worshipped ended up not even able to see the sea demon's face as the demon flung him back and gravely wounded him in just one clash. The people were already rejoicing about their returned access to wealth, but then left dumbstruck at the outcome. The sea demon was beyond anyone's comprehension, even dispensing with the strongest of the northern lands. Like one does a child, the sea demon didn't even have to come out of the mist. Taunting and ridiculing the insignificance of humans, everyone paled at its words, suddenly losing all interest in the sea's riches. Sadly, when it rains, it pours. No one knew who the bastard was that leaked how their strongest man got hurt. But Central Area's Sword Star Empire heard it loud and clear, rejoicing by sending their own men over to steal their sword as thanks in the form of a team, led personally by none other than Invincible Sword. This news sent the whole land into panic and fear. They didn't even have the chance to prepare, as 3 months ago, Invincible Sword's team mowed down any resistance and marched deep into the northern lands, hinterlands. The people were now desperate, as the strongest and most ruthless man in the world had barged into the heart of their home, his cold blade hanging dangerously close to their heads. The entire northern lands was in a state of constant anxiety for another 3 months from the real danger Invincible Sword's team posed. Yet the strongest man did nothing outrageous and seemed to have vanished. The unknown was far scarier now, since they did not know where he could be hiding, in their own home no less. Ready to pounce on them when they least expected it fell upon the cold and bitter land as another layer of ice to add to the people's misery, making them shiver. Without stop, this, however, proved to be of no concern to a certain someone. Not one bit. Who? Zhuo Fan's breath steamed as he smiled. Chower, we're finally in northern lands. Now we just have to get to the North Sea's shore. I wonder how far it is. But father, why couldn't we just keep riding that big bird? It's going to take ages to reach the shore now. He was holding the hand of a 7-year-old adorable girl, though she was frowning at him. Zhuo Fan sighed. Chower, you don't know human nature. Northern lands are now wound tighter than a violin, scared of their own shadow. Fear can lead to insanity, and riding the 3-headed crow would be too eye-catching, painting a target on our backs. We have no chance fighting an angry mob on our tail, and would only delay our journey. Remember this well. Discretion is the better side of valor. Going in blindly will only make things worse and waste time, especially with you kids being so fickle. We'll never hear the end of it. Chower brow shook, her confused gaze never leaving him. Zhuo Fan shook his head with a chuckle. I must have gotten silly. Young Sanzi has been around humans for so many years, yet even he had yet to grasp the human's way of life. Chower just left the safety of home, so how could she know the intricacies of humanity? One step at a time. Easing a breath, Zhuo Fan continued to hold a confused Chower as he walked towards the city. Stop! Who are you, and what is your purpose in Sea Bright City? They were most unwelcomed by a big guard at the gate, so deadly serious he even let his soul harmony stage aura out by all accounts. Zhuo Fan ought to be ignored with his radiant stage cultivation and Chower's power under tight wrap adorned with his demonic treasures. Yet for some reasons these guards were quite earnest in their duties, not leaving anything to chance or more like fear, drove them up the walls, so high they would jump at the slightest rustle. They were all tense that they would see even a bug as a threat in disguise. Zhuo Fan took out a golden card from his ring, the ones only most honored clients of Serene Shores Trading could have. I'm a merchant with my daughter, here to do business. You're. The big guard's eyes shook in recognition. Then he said to the others, I know this man, he's from Serene Shores Trading. I will escort him to handle his business, while you stay here and watch anything that moves. Make sure no spy from the central area gets in. The other men nodded, then ignored Zhuo Fan, while the big guard immediately showed the way with no more questions on the way. The guard spoke to Zhuo Fan. Sir, please follow me. I shall take you to our base. Did you guys infiltrate this city? How come even the gate defense? Zhuo Fan teased the man's side. Business can never break from politics. The company spread its influence to every domain and worked from the shadows just in case. But then the company's base had a major incident, and all branches began to use all their assets at the young master's call, tying everyone together. I'm the lowest worker and have been told to show anyone holding that card to the base. I don't even know the other base members or other valued clients, but I'm sure someone will talk to you there. Zhuo Fan squinted and nodded. Serene Shores Trading's reach really is deep in the 5 lands. Old Wu had been smart, already paving their escape if anything went wrong. I gotta say, I won big time by using the oblivious second young master to make all of this for my personal use. With all the places in northern lands under tight guard, walking around would have been that much harder without this company's help. Now I'm like a fish in water, haha. Zhuo Fan grinned to himself. The big man had brought them to a local store, quite run down, lacking the glory and polish a big company should have. Zhuo Fan knew that his new contact with Serene Shores Trading was here. The broken store was a mere front. Shopkeeper, you got a customer. Walking inside the 10-square-meter shop, the only display was the counter with some average goods, while behind was a wall with an old door. Next to it stood a thin old man. Looking washed up, the big man gave him a look, then left. The old man's eyes shone and stared at Zhuo Fan, grinning. Zhuo Fan pulled Qiao'er over to the old man. He sized up the 2 newcomers, then barely spoke. We were once as glorious as the heavens, now fallen into hell. How may we remedy our plight and once again brave the endless skies? I'll carve a path through mountains of flesh and blood and lead us out the gates of hell, laughing in the face of death. Follow me, and we'll fight our way back to our peak. Through a sea of blood and mountain of corpses, I'll carve a path out the gates of hell, laughing in the face of death, until the day we once again grasp the heavens. Zhuo Fan spoke. Slowly the old man nodded with a sigh. I can only hope. Right this way, sir. The old man opened the door behind. Qiao'er, wait here. Telling his daughter to stay, Zhuo Fan entered the darkness behind the door. Chapter 981. Change of Character. Chapter 981. Change of Character. Proofreader, Papatonks. The dark corridor had no end as Zhuo Fan walked deeper and deeper. Only after a long time did he notice a glimmer of lamplight arriving there. After more walking, he found 15 people bowing, and a table at the side with an oil lamp giving off a poor yellow light. Zhuo Fan said, You all know northern lands better than I do. I want to see the North Sea's shore. What is your solution? Sir can see that ever since Invincible sword barged into northern lands, the sects are on edge. The guard is very tight everywhere, and making it so hardly anyone can move around. And even if there are some who go, they are thoroughly questioned. Any disturbance that might occur would spell disaster. One youth bowed to Zhuo Fan and reported, To avoid such troubles, one must be part of a few special groups. One is made up of disciples, elders, and venerables of northern lands, 5 great sects, who can come and go at will as long as their aura matches the signature on their token. Another is made of 3 great merchants in these lands that focus on war preparations. They have 3 specific trading routes to use and dispatch goods to every sect. having earned their trust, and thus exempt from any questioning. Zhuo Fan frowned in thought. Then, what did you prepare for me? Sir, we are indeed among those merchants. But to have Sir form an identity for cover is too hard. It's much easier to fiddle with the commercial line, sending reports. The man grinned and showed a token. None know that one of the 3 great merchants of northern lands, the Qian clan, is in fact a serene shores trading pawn manipulated from the shadows. It's to prevent the 2 lands from engaging in war, while also removing the populace's hostility and facilitating trade to a greater extent. Now that the serene shores trading hidden operatives have begun to move, the Qian clan has become our front. Sir can use the cover of Qian clan, steward, to move about. This here is the token of the Qian clan. Sir needs just place a trace of soul inside. Zhuo Fan looked at it, then said, Serene Shores Trading's roots run deep I see. You sure came prepared. Ha ha ha, sir. Peace is there to prepare for war. And to have our big clients attended to, we need to have assurances. The old chairman had seen these times coming and had arranged for countermeasures. Because Bailey Jingwei had acted with such speed, it allowed our company to deal with it. The man sighed and cupped his hands. Sir, we will have a supply, transport ready 5 days from now to the North Sea. All the sects along the way will inspect the convoy. And while the token helps, every inspection will compare it with a report they have on the transport from the Qian clan to verify your identity. As such, I will have to ask that you give us a name so we can make you a true member of the Qian clan in northern lands. Zhuo Fan frowned as he pondered. With all the lands going against the central area, maybe even Shangguan clan and western landsmen will show up. It's best I avoid the usual names. And since it's the Qian clan, then I'll take on their name. Qian Fan, no Fan. Smiley face, first Fan is from his name, while the second means annoying, vexing. Qian is money. The man's brow shook and chuckled. Sir is truly refined, treating money like dirt. No one will ever dislike Qian Fan, ha ha ha. The others laughed along. Zhuo Fan nodded. True, sometimes more money means more trouble, ha ha ha. Chower, still inside the poor shop, had waited for so long and was bored to death, looking around the place, though there wasn't anything particularly of interest to the average man. While Chower, who was seeing the world for the first time, found everything a curiosity. Chow lit up as she stared at a purple mask of an eagle. Finding it familiar and interesting, she was a bird as well. Thus the eagle mask struck her fancy. Her hands reached out for it, out of her control. But then another dainty hand grabbed it first. Shopkeeper, I want this one. Chower flinched and followed the mask as it was taken by a fair young lady, looking it over. That's mine. Chower didn't know what to say, just that the mask was something she was fond of, and now it felt like someone stole it from her. The woman raised an eyebrow and turned in the child's direction, and big adorable eyes greeted her. Little girl, just because you said it, it's yours? Do you have money for it? What is money? So no, then he. Seeing the child so confused, the woman had a wide smile as she flourishly took out 10 sacred stones on the table and teased, I'm buying it. It's mine now. Chower, still confused, looked at the stones, then at the mask with longing, and hoped Chower had no clue what those were, having just come out into the world. But the shopkeeper did all too well. Using 10 sacred stones over some boring old mask is such a show-off. The average sect disciple, even venerable at that, would never swagger to such an extent. Those who spent money like water were the imperial family. But with the might of the sects in northern lands, the imperial families were controlled like it was done in western lands. Throwing away sacred stones was the common trend. But one tended to give sacred stones a second thought. And just like the other 2 lands, there were money bags and wastrels everywhere, but with northern lands on lockdown, who'd be dumb enough to come all the way here to waste their money. As for its 3 allies, their teams had settled on the North Sea shore, and certainly not here. That could only mean this person was from the Sword Star Empire. Gnashing his teeth, the old man felt rage, having guessed her identity. But then he sighed, letting all the frustration seep out and make way for calmness. Miss, don't you think it's disgraceful to fight with a child over a simple mask? What's it to you? I like fighting, humph. Jutting out her chin, the woman taunted with a raised eyebrow. I'm paying anyway, and it's only natural it's mine. Don't tell me that even 10 sacred stones aren't enough for a measly mask. The old man shook his head and straightened his back. This mask is made of the plumage of a first-level spiritual beast, scarlet-beak eagle, valued at... Don't start me with the price. How much could some first-level spiritual beasts, feathers, be worth anyway? The woman warned the old man, shook his head. 30 spirit stones. Miss, 10 sacred stones is beyond excessive. More for you then. Take it as a reward. The woman huffed and held her head high as she snickered at Chower. Girlie, I've never lost a fight in my life, he. Chower frowned, wiggled her cute nose, and stuck out her lip. It only worked to drive the woman's joy higher, pinching those whittle cheeks. Little baby, once I'm done with it, I'll give it to you if we ever meet again. If not, oh, why not come with me? Miss, are you now a slaver? The old man mocked. You're just too pig-headed. Not everything in the world can be done with stubbornness alone, just because you want them only to throw them away later when bored. A truly cherished item will never be thrown away. And I don't feel like selling my items to someone who can't even value them. Take back your sacred stones and leave the mask. I'm giving it to the child. The old man put on a cold face as he pushed away the sacred stones. Chower perked up, taking the mask. This is mine. He gave it to me. The woman was faster in getting to the mask first, as her hand darted ahead of Chower's small hand. She then turned a dark look to the old man with eyes shining with murder. Money for goods. That's how it's always been. Never has there been anyone who could take stuff from me. Old fool, do you have a death wish? Always you say, humph. More like throwing money for something that caught your eye only to throw it away when you find it boring. The old man met her glare and jeered. I believe if it had a soul, it would never choose to go with you, miss. It would rather have nothing to do with the likes of you. The woman's piercing glare never left the old man. There's something else you're hinting at. Just who are you? Chapter 982. Frigid Rain, Sword King. Chapter 982. Frigid Rain, Sword King. Proofreader, Papatonks. A seller who had his heart broken when master threw him away. The old man lamented, then derided. Miss, besides buying goods, there's still the matter of will to lead to a smooth trade. I, however, am unwilling to sell it to you no matter how much money you give me. So just leave it and go. The woman's face fell while Chower was getting anxious. Let me have it. He gave it to me and won't sell it to you. Yeah, he won't sell it. What a shame. What I want, I buy, even if he doesn't want to. With cold bloodthirst shining in her eyes and a sinister smile, she released her power to pin the old man on the wall. The woman's hand oozed sword energy, her tone deadly. Old fool, I'm no dealer, and certainly not here to bargain. I don't care who you are, but you're going to pay for defying me, humph. The woman flicked her hand, and a sword flew out. The old man couldn't even blink in the face of such mighty power. Stuck there on the wall, he knew this was going to happen from the start. Choosing now to welcome the death he knew would come, he had been ever loyal to Serene Shores Trading. To voice the wrong on the chairman, he dared to spit in the other's face, and now he was bold enough to give up his life for the bond between master and servant. He had let go of everything and was ready to pass on. Stop! A shout came from the dark corridor, followed by a calm voice. Miss, you can kill all you want, but try to do it outside Sea Bright City, lest you'd want to have all eyes on all of us. The woman smirked, looking at the dark corridor's entrance with mockery. You think I care? Miss doesn't care about all but one man's opinion. Joafan walked out of the shadows, his tone flat. The man doesn't want Miss to make trouble, or it will earn his ire. And over what a shabby mask. Ha! The woman's brow shook and winced. Her heart sank and mulled things over before withdrawing her aura. The old man slumped from the wall and gasped for his life. He was ready to die. But anyone alive was happy to have come out of that with his life still staring hard at Joafan. The woman squinted and clenched her fists as she growled. Who are you? Do you know who I am? I don't. Zhuo Fan shook his head and bowed. I am but a steward of the Qian clan of Northern Lands, Qian Fan. This frail store is in my clan's care, and I hope Miss will be forgiving. Ha ha ha. The woman stared hard. Qian clan? One of the 3 great merchants? Yes. Lies. The woman spat. Merchants only care for money, always weighing gains and losses. You think they'd haggle with me over some run-down shop like this? And by the looks of you and your impassive face, you're not just anyone either, to not twitch under my killing intent. There's no way a tiny Qing clan would have someone like you as its steward. Who the hell are you? Zhuo Fan gave a slight bow with a wide smile. Thank you for the praise, miss. As for who I am, there's no need to ask, just how there's no need for me to ask who Miss is. In short, I'm of no threat to Miss, and if Miss doesn't see me as an enemy, we can each go our own way. There's plenty of road for the both of us to never intersect. Ha ha ha. But you already know who I am. The woman was confused how someone just popped up that had leverage on her. Who was he? How can I trust you mean no harm to us without declaring who you are? Zhuo Fan shrugged. Do I really know? Ha ha ha, miss, you're jumping the gun here. I only feel like Miss shouldn't make a scene, that's all. Miss needn't look into me as well. Being able to tell your identity shows you needn't know anymore, that any probing will be fruitless and would only bring more problems than solutions. Is that a threat? A warning? With an insufferable grin plastered on his face, Zhuo Fan's eyes held a sharp glint. If you'd go to Western Lands, you'd come to realize the world is vast and that there are people above you still, that no one can avoid certain calamities. Caution is always prized in life, lest the slightest mishap might bring it all down. Growing overconfident helps no one. The woman's frown shook, her eyes bewildered. Western Lands. You're that. The woman gasped and grimaced at the sudden realization. Zhuo Fan's mouth curled, playing the mystery card. Miss doesn't need to say it, just know it. It's best we each go our own way and not throw everything into chaos. The woman felt conflicted, but then huffed and left in a rush. Wait. Zhuo Fan held out his hand with a smile. May Miss be so kind as to return my daughter's mask. Pausing, the woman shot Xiaoer a look, then scoffed. Your daughter, ha ha ha. Someone as average as you actually has such a pretty and adorable daughter? The heavens must be blind. Ha ha ha. There's nothing strange about it. Her mother takes all the credit. Enough with the smugness. Letting you off is already kind enough on my part. Don't ever think you'll get the stuff that I have my eye on. The woman snorted and refused to a fan, said, Then I don't have a choice. Among practitioners, the more friends, the more options you have. Since Miss insists on making a scene, if anything happens and an investigation starts because of you, that man, you say we should go our own way, but you're clearly butting in our own side. It's not us doing it, but you who is provoking it. Zhuo Fan's cold stare was fixed on her. Miss, I am just like you, unable to let go of what catches my eye, even if it's a dime or pin. The same goes for my daughter. What sets us apart, however, is that I have no such thing as the empathy or consciousness holding me back from making trouble over it, unlike Miss here. The woman's face shook and growled as she flicked her hand in rage, throwing the mask at Zhuo Fan. You haven't heard the last of me. The woman left with that threat hanging as she stormed out the door. Zhuo Fan's creepy grin surfaced as he caught it, giving it to the hopeful and happy Xiaoer by his side. Sir has such valor to talk that witch into giving up. I am in awe. The old man bowed before Zhuo Fan in gratitude. Zhuo Fan smiled. You know who she is? From the central area. The old man's fading eyes shook as he sighed. Intel says mighty experts have invaded northern lands. 10 imperial princes, an invincible sword leading 5 sword kings. Among the 9 sword kings, the only woman is Frigid Rain Sword King, Bali Yuyu. Zhuo Fan nodded. Exactly her. Then how did young master manage to scare her away? Fear of consequences. Zhuo Fan said. She fears one man only, invincible sword Bailey Yutian. They have invaded northern lands, yet didn't show themselves because Bailey Yutian demanded it of them to be subtle. All this wait is for the perfect moment to strike. It's safe to say that any disturbance they cause beforehand will earn his wrath. So I figured she was more afraid of him than being pig-headed. That's why I did not fear her at all. The old man mulled his words and nodded. Why then did she return the mask? She could have. Fear again. Zhuo Fan smiled. Bailey Yuqian won't take anything short of victory in this operation, but now they have someone butting in their business, ha ha ha. Whoever brought about this disaster is bound to be subjected to Bailey Yuqian's rage. But who could hinder them when they have such power? Have you heard of the matters in western lands? Zhuo Fan looked aside at him. Your company's intelligence should know that Bailey Jingwei had men looking into me in western lands and should know of the terrible event. Devil Mountain. Precisely. Zhuo Fan nodded with a glint in his eyes. Devil Mountain is too much of an unknown while showing unprecedented strength. It caused the 9 Sword Kings and even Invincible Sword to be weary. Humans fear the unknown, so I hinted I'm from Devil Mountain. The stronger I appear, the weaker they feel. Since she knew next to nothing of me, she feared doing anything that might cause trouble. Maybe Devil Mountain is nothing, but on the off chance that it is, their plan would be foiled, and who would Invincible Sword take it out on? Ha ha ha! That means any that get Devil Mountain's attention is one poor devil. This is one liability she could not afford to have. Chapter 983. I Wish to Meet. Chapter 983. I Wish to Meet. Proofreader, Papatonks. The old man twirled his beard and took his time running his words through his mind before saying to Zhuo Fan, Sir's truly outstanding. Such insight into the enemy after one look. I had no idea what second young master saw, and sir, to trust you, so, but now I do. Second young master's vision is without equal. Ha ha ha, there's no need for that. You make it sound like he got me on board. Zhuo Fan emphasized on his leading position in all of this. The old man paused, then nodded. Yes, we are your loyal servants, sir. But I do have one doubt. Does sir come from that Devil Mountain? Devil Mountain. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook as if from fear. But then he showed a smile as he turned to the hopeful old man. Do you believe there's such a thing in the world? Startled, the old man hesitated before shaking his head. It is because I do not know with how wide the world is that I ask sir to clarify. Truth may become a lie as lies can turn to truth. The absence of something does not disprove or prove its existence. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and laughed to himself. It doesn't matter if such a thing exists, only that the people believe in it. In case it doesn't exist now, nothing stops it from coming into being later, right? Ha! The old man's face twitched, and his eyes widened all of a sudden, looking at Zhuo Fan with even more respect. He gave a deep blow filled with awe. Sir is godlike, setting up such a huge stage, pulling officials, emperors, and beggars alike. But if the name proves to be false, isn't your company's model not to look into people? Let it become real with time. Zhuo Fan grinned. The old man understood and looked grateful their comeback had just received godly help. No, this mystery man's help Zhuo Fan had given Serene Shores Trading a second chance, only coming by now and then to show them the way, to fight for public opinion since he wanted a power that went from corner to corner of the world. He couldn't let everything in second young master's care. Wu Randong was only a guide, while the real leader of the company was a man with talent and vision, making his name known, and showcasing his skills was one of the many steps he had to take to make it so. Walking towards a giddy Chower playing with her new mask, Zhuo Fan left with her. The old man had been bowing all this time, proclaiming his endless respect. The same guard once again popped up as they exited the shop and said with courtesy, Sir, I have arranged a place for you to stay. Please follow me. He led Zhuo Fan and Chower to their room where they cultivated in peace as they waited the 5 days to pass. In a quiet groove, deep and hidden, with not a trace of sunlight gracing the ground, the coldness grew thicker. Seeping into one's bones, it was in this freezing place that a dozen or so men sat on the damp ground. Their leader was an old man with sharp eyes and a powerful spirit. The 4 people closest to him were Bailey's 4 sword kings, and behind them were 10 youngsters, with the crown prince leading the other princes of the imperial family. They had come along with their patriarch and sword kings to learn on this journey and grow, to continue the legacy of the strongest clan. Whoosh! A beautiful woman suddenly appeared in their sight, then started flicking her hand in anger and kicking her feet before plopping next to the 4 sword kings with a deep breath to begin mediation. How can you cultivate with such a restless mind? Bailey Yutian spoke, opening his eyes. Yu, what happened? Is there any news from Jingwei? The others looked over as well, with Bali Yulei frowning and chiding Bali Yu. Yu, what's the problem exactly to be so pissed? You're disturbing patriarchs. Meditation. Have you found something that bodes ill for us? Forgive me, patriarch, I didn't mean it. She stood and bowed to Bailey Yutian in fear, watching from the corner of her eye for any movement from him. His face remained impassive, like a tranquil lake. Bailey Yutian stood up at last and spoke without looking at her. Speak first, then you can apologize. You know I hate it the most when people start throwing tantrums like a bunch of children. Don't even act like this again, without any reason, when I'm around. I won't. Bali Yu hurriedly bowed. Per Patriarch's order, I went to check the area and found nothing strange. Prime Minister has yet to move. But what? On my way back, I met someone. Bali Yu's tone lowered as she hesitated. Bailey Yulei frowned and interjected. Someone? Who? Does he have something to do with us? What makes you so restless that you can't calm down? I only just met him, but he appears to be from Devil Mountain. Devil Mountain? The mystery sect from Western lands? Bali Yu was tense as she uttered, only for Bailey Yulei to suddenly cry out, the information we got from Western lands say that Devil Mountain's lord is so strong that may rival Patriarch, and making the Western land's strongest experts sit back while he destroyed 5 sects without so much as a warning. How can someone from Devil Mountain just appear in Northern lands? Patriarch, we're not only facing the 4 lands alliance, but also this unknown power. Bailey Yutian's features shifted a bit, then he spoke coldly. Yulei, did you just say Devil Mountain's lord can match me? No, never. He can't be up to Patriarch's level. But he is far stronger than a sword king. Bailey Yulei shuddered when he noticed his leader's focus. He knew practitioners never liked to be compared and rushed to explain. Bailey Yutian chuckled, his eyes cold. Yulei, haven't I already told you? You don't have to walk on pins and needles around me and just say it like it is. According to the people in Western lands, Devil Mountain's lord, Overlord 9 Serenities, has long since outgrown heaven in power. There's no need to be so cautious around me, being better or lower than me. Humph, nothing but wasted words. Have you even seen him? Oh, right, Patriarch. We never saw him, and not many from Western lands saw him either. With how the rumors circulate, they must be inflated. Wiping the cold sweat off his brow, Bailey Yulei gave a dry laughter. Patriarch knows not to trust hearsay, not when they get embellished every time they're passed on. Maybe this is Western Land's plan to intimidate us. Maybe Devil Mountain doesn't even exist, nor is there such an expert. Bailey Yutian nodded. Yes, while such a possibility does exist, there are many who seek fame and fortune. The world does not lack people with insidious minds. This may be the Western Land's plan, being subtle about creating Devil Mountain out of nothing to scare me and keep the peace for a moment longer. Patriarch is right. But this man of Devil Mountain really exists. Bailey Yulei praised the old man, but then Bailey Yutian switched topics. This means that this isn't a scheme, since the crux of this ineffable mystery is being vague and undecipherable, with the coming of a disciple that can only mean the Devil Mountain exists. I would like to meet him. Patriarch, you want to meet him? Bailey Yulei cried in shock. Bailey Yutian nodded, and his eyes shone. I have never lost once in my long life as cultivator and have been in a bitter search for a worthy opponent. Now that this ephemeral person appeared, I am excited. I hope that before the war starts to see his disciple and test him. That's a good idea, ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian laughed and turned to Bali Yu. Yu, tell me everything about your meeting with me. I need to assess him. Chapter 984. No Holds Barred. Chapter 984. No Holds Barred. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yes, Patriarch. At his orders, Bailey Yutian bowed at once and recounted everything. Bailey Yutian squinted. You're a peak Genesis stage expert, even with demonic treasures hiding your true cultivation. But the moment you released your bloodthirst, the kid saw through your strength and your identity. Yet despite all that, a third-layer radiant stage pup feared you not, using his persuasive words to retreat without even the mask. What a rare spirit he has. Humph! I had to listen to Patriarch's warning, or I'd have long since removed his head from his shoulder for you. A loss is a loss, no excuses. Bailey Yu raised her hands in anger, but Bailey Yutian snapped at her. That man has skill to grasp your weakness and leverage it. It's you at fault for not hiding it well and lost without a doubt. Accept it and not throw a tantrum at me like a teenager. You're a sword king, so act like one. Bailey Yu's face shook as she took a deep breath and bowed deeply. Though the grudge only festered inside her, still Bailey Yutian nodded. Yu, tomorrow you'll go spy on the kid and gauge his reaction. I want to see how Devil Mountain's disciple compares to our Bailey clan's disciples. Spy, that's it. Yes. Bailey Yutian's eyes flashed. And I'll even allow you to kill this time, no holds barred. Bali Yu lit up in excitement. Thank you so much, Patriarch. Let's see that punk be cocky again. But Bailey Yutian barged into her joyous occasion. The only one you're not to target in your killing spree is Devil Mountain's disciple. Bali Yu shuddered. But Patriarch, you first tell me I can kill, and now you say not him. Then what? I want to test him, not to kill him. Bailey Yutian took a deep breath, regarding the heavens. Like master, like disciple. I want to see just how the Devil Mountain's disciple is compared to our clan's. Would he still keep a straight face with a mad witch out for blood hot on his heels? Ha ha ha, this'll make for a great test. Bali Yu's heart twitched. Patriarch, I thought I'm a sword king you yourself entitled. How come I'm suddenly a mad witch? Show some respect at least. Bailey Yutian didn't give a damn. Grinning to himself, Bailey Yulei frowned. Patriarch, with Yu wreaking havoc in northern lands, it will bring the war closer. Then Jingwei's deployment. It's fine. Bailey Yutian cut him off. Jingwei is the prime minister and values the empire's victory, while I am only out to find a worthy opponent to learn from and understand the world even better, to grasp greater strength. Any that stand in my way, even the empire's interests, are to step aside, understand? They all shuddered on the inside and bowed. Yes, Patriarch. With business out of the way, now it's time for personal issues. Pa! Bailey Yutian turned icy once more and snapped his hand as he glared at Bali Yu. A violent and strong force struck her, spun her around 3 times before slamming into the ground with a crunch and bleeding from the mouth. Bailey Yulei started. Patriarch! I asked her to scout, yet she went to a thrift shop? Humph! Women are so fickle. Bailey Yutian's tone was as cold as his glare. 1,000 lashes ought to set her straight. Yulei, you'll be enforcing the punishment, then have her go on with her task. Yes. They all bowed without a choice, with Bali Yu not even making comment. Despite the swollen cheek, Bailey Yutian returned to his seat, with others rushing to do the same. Bailey Yulei sighed and took Bali Yu behind the trees, and sharp cracks split the air. 1,000 lashes later, Bailey Yutian staggered over with sweat marring her features, while blood seeped from her lacerated back. She, however, pushed through the pain, gnashing her teeth and bowing to Bailey Yutian before flying to her mission. Bailey Yulei clenched the whip in his hand. sighing as he returned to his seat 5 days later. The Qian caravan was ready. Zhuo Fan, the fake steward, took the lead of the carriages drawn by third-level spiritual beasts while escorted by 15 guards. The same 15 he saw back in that dark room. With a shout, the spiritual beasts roared and pulled the heavy transports in a mad dash, while the people sat inside where it was warm and there was wine, though something felt off for some reason. They kept feeling a chill creeping up their spine now and then. Looking outside with vigilance, they noticed a cold woman following from behind with an eerie grin that had them shiver. "Sir, why does that woman keep staring at us?" Pulling Zhuo Fan over to the window, the guard pointed her out. "Our transport is secretive in the northern lands, so how come we have a tail?" Zhuo Fan smiled. "It's fine, just one of the 9 sword kings, Bali Yuyu of the central area. Last time we had a bit of a standoff, so now she just came to scare us." The man almost spat blood from fright. "Bali Yuyu. And it doesn't matter if she's tailing us? Bro, you sure have a big heart." The others' faces twitched as they watched Zhuo Fan with shock. Never in their wildest dreams did they think a sword king was on their tail. What made it worse? The new boss doesn't even care. Is this idiocy or valor? Anyone else would have wet their pants hearing a sword king is onto them. Zhuo Fan grinned and rubbed Chower's head. Chower giggled, having caught his look, and mocked. "Why are you scared? She'd never touch us anyway, or she'd have done it 5 days ago. Dad got her seething with rage, yet still had her give back my mask. If not then certainly not now, so relax. You had an argument with her back then." Everyone cried out and looked stumped before bowing in respect. "Sir, it's truly amazing to have even a sword king back off. We are in awe. Now we know why second young master wanted to follow Sir." Zhuo Fan gave a light wave. "Please, you should be thanking Bailey Yutian. It was he who set her restriction, so that the 9 sword kings can't move without his say-so." Boom! The sudden explosion coming from behind shook the carriage, rumbled the earth, and scared the spiritual beasts. The third-level spiritual beasts went wild at the sudden noise. Bucking and throwing the bindings off at the carriage began to wobble under Zhuo Fan and the others' feet and showed signs of toppling soon. They burst outside, and the sudden view had them in shock. Everywhere they looked, the previously snowy and beautiful painting of nature was now scorched black, with holes everywhere of the 5 carriage. The last one was nowhere to be seen, not even the 5 third-level spiritual beasts pulling it. One could only take a wild guess from the blackened earth that they were pulverized in the blast. Everyone's face twitched, and the knees softened under them from fright. One turned to Zhuo Fan and whined, "Sir, didn't you say she wouldn't?" "Yeah, 5 days ago she didn't attack, so why now?" Zhuo Fan was calm. The old coot had let her loose, it seems. Humph! But to what extent, that is the question. Chapter 985, Testing. Chapter 985, Testing. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh! A cold figure landed just 100 meters from Zhuo Fan's group. With a cold smirk, everyone turned to jelly at the sight of this vile witch staggering backward. Only Zhuo Fan not just stood his ground, but walked closer with an ineffable smile. "Miss, we meet again. How've you been?" "Good, I hope." "Humph! Keep your slick words to yourself." Bali Yuyu had a crooked grin, mocking. "Kid, didn't you say I wouldn't touch you? Just watch me. I made sure to destroy your goods and kill your men. Now it's your turn, ha ha ha." Bali Yuyu's cackle chilled the others to the bone, while Zhuo Fan's smile never faltered, slowly shaking his head as he walked even closer. "Miss, it was I who offended you. The others have nothing to do with this. Why take it out on the innocents instead of me?" "Innocent? Humph! No one around you is innocent." Bali Yu huffed, feeling playful. "Since you care so much about them, I'll leave you for last while I wring the life of every last one of them in front of you. It's your fault they will die. Their sin for working with you." Zhuo Fan sighed. "Do you have to? Involving bystanders in another's disputes is never the way. Here I am, right in front of you. So if you're going to kill someone, kill me. At least I will be the first to die before them. Humph, not everything goes your way. The more you want to sacrifice yourself and ease your crimes, the more I want to save you for last and let them die in front of you because of you. I'll have regret eat you up inside before I move on to you. This is what you get for pissing me off. Bali Yuyu growled as she glared at Fan, who kept coming closer. Weren't you from that place? Weren't you tough? Why, can't you even save a few lives? It's not that I can't, but that I never considered it. Fan had reached Bali Yuyu at this point, just a meter between them, as his vague smile grew wider. Miss, did you hurt your face perchance? That would just not do for a pretty thing like you, miss. You should be using your Yuan Qi to patch it up and not waste time on something as vapid as reaping lives. Fan reached out, going after Bali Yuyu's swollen and red-cheeked. Bali Yuyu jumped back and shouted, What do you think you're doing? Healing you, miss, since it's too much for you to do it yourself. Fan grinned, his raised hand glowing green and oozing vitality. Such a scratch means nothing with Miss Cultivation. Healed in a blink. But to keep it like this, despite how it looks, I'll have to do it myself so that your leader won't have anything to reproach. Bali Yuyu growled and her brows shook. Keep your hand to yourself. This is Patriarch's punishment. Only he gets to decide when this is healed, and certainly not you. Am I to assume, then, that it's also your Patriarch who egged you to attack us? Is Patriarch letting you kill now? Fan smiled. Bali Yuyu gave a cold smirk. Damn right. There's nothing holding me back. Your luck has run out. Did Patriarch have you kill me as well? Fan shouted. Bali Yuyu jerked, needing a moment before sporting a sinister smile. Right again, kid. Just wait till I kill you. Is that so? Fan beamed, shaking his head, having gotten his answer. Bali Yuyu covered it well, but the split second in demeanor change was enough to betray the truth. Bailey Yutian, to tell her to go on a murder spree. But to an extent, the old coot wants to test me, or better yet, test Devil Mountain's disciples and Overlord Nine's serenities. Ha ha ha. Thanks, Devil Mountain. You're finally living up to your fake name by reeling in the strongest in mortal domain. That means that even the 9 Sword Kings will need his explicit approval before touching anyone from Devil Mountain. I must say the name sure has its uses. Grinning with confidence, Fan's eyes shone with insight. Bali Yuyu, the great and revered Sword King, was overcome by a very bad feeling, one laced with fear. Fan was too much of an unknown that robbed her of all confidence. Bali Yuyu grew enraged, unable to accept his ridiculing smug smile. What are you smiling at? You don't believe I can kill? Oh, I believe, all right. You most certainly have it in you to kill me. That's why I'm here, before you at your tender mercy. Fan gave a dismissive wave and resumed walking towards Bali Yuyu. They were so close now they could practically touch. Even their breath felt warm on the other. Despite the cold weather, Bali Yuyu flushed red and jumped back again, putting some distance between them and panicking. Jay, just what are you doing? Coming before Miss, ready to be captured and presenting my neck. Fan raised a taunting eyebrow. Why? Does Miss hate it that I completely understand my powerless situation and accept it? Bali Yuyu's lips shook as she saw Fan's bright and insufferable smile with a red face and blank mind. She was a mighty Sword King from the Central Area's Sword Star Empire. Anyone and everyone, almost, would have to scrape and bow at her feet, worship her even. Then how come someone would be so daring and infringing on her personal space with playful smiles? Bali Yuyu lost her mind, pointing at Fan. Stay right there. Don't come any closer. Humph, don't think I'm going to let you off so easily. I'll be sure to torture you and let you have a taste of real horrors as I kill your men. One every day. Who knows when your turn will come as you wallow in despair. Bali Yuyu no longer looked at Fan and vanished. Only the footprint in snow bore testament that a graceful and vicious woman had been here. Fan shook his head and walked back to the others. People, look at the carriages. We're moving on. None moved, too dumbstruck to react. Their eyes were filled with nothing but respect and awe. What's wrong with you? Get to work already. Joafan frowned and shouted at them. They gave a silly giggle, yet in no rush to do their jobs. Sir, were you just flirting with Frigid Rain's Sword King? You're so awesome. To even do it with a bloodthirsty witch. Bam! Joafan smacked them on the spot. Cut the senseless chatter. I was only testing her limits. And did you find them? Of course. Joafan grinned. That broad got free rein from Bailiutian to start killing, but the only one who she can't touch is me. I gave her ample reasons and occasions to end me then and there, but she never went for it. While she was leaning on excuses, those weren't her style. With how petty and quick to anger, she was back in the store. There's no way she gathered the patience necessary to toy with me for so long. So I've nothing to worry about her going after my life and can keep going. The others sighed. Relieved, Joafan blinked at them. That's only valid for me alone. You all aren't included. Why then are you so at ease? Be careful not to get her to waste you. You're wrong there, sir. One guard chuckled in joy. Since she won't touch you, then we'll be safe as long as we stay close to you. That's why from now on we'll eat together, sleep together, and ride together. I hope sir won't mind it, Joafan frowned then nodded, sharp guy. That's a good plan with a high success rate. Though if we want to get rid of her for good, we need a large ruckus and force the man behind her to come negotiate. It's not good to always be reactive to the other's actions and under constant watch. The man behind her. The men exclaimed, Sir means to. Joafan gave a resolute nod with a cold smile. Sooner or later we'll meet the best in the lands. So we'll use this chance to get a feel of him, ha ha ha. Chapter 986. Sun Sea Sect. Chapter 986. Sun Sea Sect. Proofreader, Papatonks. You lost. The 4 carriages were soon repaired, their beasts tied to them, and rushed through the snowstorm. However, unbeknownst to them, invincible sword Bailiutian stood upon a peak a kilometer away. Witnessing the entire event with a long sigh, the 4 sword kings stood behind him with dark looks. Bailiutian glanced at them and spoke. Even with the strength of a sword king, she still lost. Do you know why? The 4 hung their heads, having no reply, their faces showing only deference and respect as they waited for the patriarch to enlighten them. Crown Prince, what do you kids think? Bailiutian turned to the 10 youths at the back after some hesitation. Crown Prince immediately bowed. Patriarch, Frigid Rain's Sword King, has stepped forward and has free rein, but in my eyes, she appears to be the one to lose. Just like how Devil Mountain appears to have lost, yet didn't. Frigid Rain's Sword King was too reliant on raw power and disregarded the mind games one can use, giving the opponent the upper hand and pushing her back by grasping her weakness. The problem with Sword Kings is that they are all brawn and no brains, like they're at the top of the world. They aren't aware that on the battlefield, nothing is black and white, in constant change and complex. You're wrong, Crown Prince. Bailiule interjected before Bailiutian could reply. This world is all about survival of the fittest. The strong don't need convoluted plans. Eagles fell their prey in one swoop. Tigers catch their quarry in one pounce. There's no room for hesitation. Only mice scurry around unseen for food, and sparrows look for seeds with caution. The art of war and all the tactics used in the army are all based on winning against a stronger opponent. While retreat is always advisable against someone beyond your abilities, but all these schemes and tactics show is that the user is weak, uncertain of their own strength. Yu is a sword king, with hardly any in this world to match her. She has no need to think hard if someone would be out to get her through some master plan. Only people like you, Crown Prince, having not reached your full potential, would resort to such sophistry. How can you understand the pride of a sword king, of wielding the power to be on top? The reason why she ended up losing to a kid's slick words is because, Bailiule spoke with disdain and scorn as he chided the young future emperor. It took a long time in his speech to realize he had gone out of line. Sweat soaking his brow, and fists clenched. Crown Prince just stared at him with a smile as he dug himself into a hole. Bailey Yutian spoke. What? You don't mean to say that I've been holding you back, do you? Is that why you couldn't attack? So that means her loss is my fault? Patriarch, that's not what I mean. Bailey Yule rushed into a bow, shivering and taking blame. He was only a sword king and had no right to hold the patriarch accountable for anything. His conceited speech was him running his mouth, letting his overblown pride get the best of him and shift the blame on his boss. He had basically dug his own grave. Crown Prince smiled in ridicule. Thunder Sword King, it seems to me you're not quite at the top, ha ha ha. Bailey Yule's face twisted in rage as he glared, but that was it, waiting for Patriarch's decision. Quiet, all of you. Bailey Yutian gave an annoying wave, watching Zhuo Fan leave. None of your answers touched on the essence. Be it smarts or bronze, it all comes down to valor, to having the attitude of the strong. Without a brave heart, no amount of cunning and strength matter. Anyone else would have been scared witless by Yu's sword, even affecting those that appeared calm. While the kid fought back and took initiative. Nothing would have come of it if he didn't have courage. Also, I didn't let Yu attack, and she really didn't. Humph, damn spineless coward. She won't get far in understanding the Tao. Not after she couldn't even muster the nerve to challenge my authority. Having always been looming over her, she has no way forward. Stopped at this level, they all shook, with Bailey Yule anxiously saying, Patriarch, you're saying disobeying you would have been better. Yes, it would, but she would die then. Bailey Yutian's eyes glinted with coldness. He vanished from his spot, leaving the others confused. What's that supposed to mean, Patriarch? Even if you let us walk our own path, we can't escape your control, or we'll be dead. Crown Prince paused and gave a wry smile. Invincible Sword is the only one in the world. He flew away after Patriarch, the others even more confused and conflicted. Zhuo Fan's caravan had been marching for 3 days, looking out the window now and then, picking up Baliyu's cold smile watching them from afar, and giving all but him and his daughter the chill, sir. The witch keeps following us like a leech. I know you're certain she won't touch you, but who knows if it'll stay like this? One guard asked Zhuo Fan for advice. How is there going to solve this crisis? Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and smiled. Nothing to it, since it's almost time. For what? Our first stop of our trading caravan, Sun Sea Sect. He picked his teacup from the radiator and sipped. The all looked clueless. Is her planning on hiding there? Nah, can't be. Sun Sea Sect was one of Northern Land's 5 sects, but far beneath even one Sword King. They can never protect us. They were so quick to close their doors when news of 9 Sword Kings came around. There's no way they'll shield a merchant. They couldn't make any sense of his words. But Zhuo Fan was in no rush to explain, giving an ineffable smile as he looked out the window. In 4 hours, before a snow valley, the 4 carriages halted. Zhuo Fan and the 12 guards stepped out and bowed to the guard outside the valley. The Qian clan caravan is here. I ask Senior of Sun Sea Sect to let us pass. Here is my clan's token. The guard took out his own token, identical to Zhuo Fan's, and threw it behind it, vanished into thin air. Coming back only 15 minutes later, the space then warped, and the valley had an icy road form in the middle. The guard gave Zhuo Fan a look and nodded. Everyone got in the 4 carriages and entered the strange domain. There was another ripple in the air, and the icy road vanished behind them, returning to be a plain snow valley whoosh. Bali Yu flashed not far away, glaring haughtily. Humph! Want to hide in Sun Sea Sect, is it? Then I'll be waiting right here. The first to come out will be the first to taste my blade. Let's see you keep your calm then, brat. Zhuo Fan's carriage just entered, and 50 men in the Soul Harmony stage surrounded them. With wary looks, the leader was a shifty middle-aged man in white with split mustache to make him look cunning. No need to worry, everyone. Just the usual trade caravan. Please present your tokens to asses your identities as Qian clansmen. Oh, Executive Chow, who else would we be? We've been doing this route for many times now. One guard laughed while giving his token to a disciple executive. Chow nodded. "Oh, Guard Wu! I sure recognize you, having been here many times, but it has been tense lately, and it doesn't hurt to be cautious." He gave a look to the men around him and started checking the token signatures with the user to see if no rat slipped in. Everything checked out, following Zhuo Fan's turn as he bowed and presented a jade slip. "Executive Chow, here is the caravan roster." "I am Qian Fan, Qian Clan's steward." Zhuo Fan gave a weird smirk. Chapter 987. Lamb to the Slaughter. Chapter 987. Lamb to the Slaughter. Proofreader, Papatonks. Frowning, the executive said, "Qian Fan, how come I never heard of the Qian clan having someone like you?" "Ha! I've always been working out in the field, and only recently came back at clan head's orders due to these tense times." "Executive Chow, it's natural to not know me." Zhuo Fan spoke without any inflection in his voice, while also hinting that the executive hands were tied no matter how suspicious he might be. "This is my daughter. I didn't feel at peace leaving her alone at home, so I've taken her along. I hope executive doesn't mind if she isn't on the list." Zhuo Fan called Chow over as a shield, which helped curb Chow's suspicions. What kind of a spy would bring their daughter to work? She'd only get in the way. Shame he had no clue this cute and adorable girl was anything but harmless. Executive Chow nodded. "I believe you, but business is business, and we must follow protocol in ascertaining every member. Ha ha ha." Executive Chow gestured, and one of his men brought Zhuo Fan's token over and whispered in his ear before sending him off. Chow turned from his man to Zhuo Fan, saying, "Since coming out of the field, does sir know about the 5 sects tightening their guard ever since Central Area's operations in our homeland? The names and auras of main figures from major clans have all been included for inspection. In a few minutes we will have confirmation, sir. I only ask for a moment of your time." Executive Chow scanned Zhuo Fan for the slightest twitch, to find anything that might give him away. Zhuo Fan was aware of his attempt from the start, and Serene Shores Trading made sure everything would check out when they set up his token. He had no doubt in his mind there would be no problems whatsoever. "I knew this when I returned. Thank you for your care, Executive Chow." Zhuo Fan smiled. Executive Chow blinked and gave a dry smile. With all his attempts at getting a rise out of the other coming out false, he was now pretty convinced Zhuo Fan was who he claimed soon. His man was back with an answer and the badge. "Executive, the Qian clan list does indeed contain such a steward among them, while the aura checks out as well." "Oh, then why wasn't I aware of this?" Executive Chow asked the man, continued, "Northern Lands has many rare items that the many clans sell to all kinds of regions for a bigger profit by sending their people there. With how dark times are upon us, they all recalled their men, and each clan has updated their roster. Over the last few days, many clans sent their new list every couple of days, with the Qian clan sending their updated one just 5 days ago." "I see. It was just a misunderstanding. Ha ha ha." Executive Chow confidently nodded at Zhuo Fan's identity and smiled. "Steward Qian, please don't mind it. It's just a precaution." Zhuo Fan had no reason to panic, not when everything was foolproof. "It's all for the safety of Northern Lands. Ha ha ha." "Oh, can now Executive Chow inspect the goods? We still have many drops to make." Sure, not a problem." Executive Chow took a jade slip, placing his trace on it as a receipt, then took Zhuo Fan's token and then marked it into the same jade slip to mark Qian Fan as the receiver. This worked to solidify Zhuo Fan's new persona, with not just Qian clan vouching for him, but Sun Sea sect as well. Taking this proof with him would make the rest of the journey smooth sailing, with each stop adding their own vouching for his identity and sealing his status in the Northern Lands, while making it all the much easier to go to the North Seas. Sure, Northern Lands went through such a hassle every single time to root out any Central Area spy that might get any ideas. Sure, a bit of luck might get one past a checkpoint, but what about the many more that followed? Once you got past all these thorough inspections without any slip-up, there would hardly be any more resistance for any. even those from the Sword Star Empire all, however, were oblivious of the Sword Star Empire never able to take this approach, while the dead Serene Shores trading could easily do it with their connections throughout the lands. This was a faction that was under Zhuo Fan's control. It was bound to become the fifth faction joining this conflict among the lands, without anyone noticing as it lurked and grew from the shadows. With the stamp of approval, Zhuo Fan had the men unload Sun C-Sex goods, then left with the carriages. Hold up! A sudden loud voice intervened with their departure. Steward Qian, the goods are off. Executive Chao had an odd look. Why are there half of the usual items? Zhuo Fan put on a pained face and sighed as he pulled the executive over. Executive Chao, I ask that you help a brother out and keep this matter hidden. I'll be sure to give the rest on the return trip. Just what happened? Executive Chao got curious. Zhuo Fan sighed longer this time. Truth be told, the carriage with your great sex other half of goods got struck down by a Central Area's agent. You met with a Central Area agent. Executive Chao cried out, but Zhuo Fan was fast in covering his mouth with a panicked look. Executive Chao, Brother Chao, keep your voice down. Clan head might get wind that I failed in guarding the goods, and he'll skin me. What am I supposed to do? Of the promised goods, only half arrived. Not so loud. Making a shushing gesture, Zhuo Fan spoke fast. I told you, I'll give the rest when I make a round trip. Your sect doesn't need them right now anyway, and you can store them away. Then I'll come back with the rest, and with a little bit extra to repay the favor. Executive Chao frowned hard and shook his head. No, this is too important. The amount is too great, and I'll take the full once it's checked. There's no reason for me to take such an unwarranted risk. Fine, I'll do one better, but you have to cover for me. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth and hesitated before looking pained. That agent is right behind us, meant to target our wares. He first ruined half your goods, and having gotten a taste of destruction, he still followed us, biding his time for the perfect chance to destroy some more. So I plan on capturing him. You know as well as I do what a grand achievement a captured enemy spy will look on your record, especially in these dark times. So I'll share the merit with you. We'll both capture him, and I'll not only be pardoned for my loss of goods, but even rewarded for such a feat the clan would hail me a hero. Executive Chao pinched his mustache, calculating, will it be that easy to get him? When he ruined our carriage, not even my dozen men could circle him with how fast he moved. Zhuo Fan shook his head with a frown. Executive Chao eased a long breath and cursed. Since you can't catch him, then don't waste more men over him. All right, just go, but keep in mind to come back with the rest of the supplies, or I'll take it up with the Qian clan. Hey, you're not capturing him. Of course not. Our job is to guard the sect, not catch spies for you. Executive Chao waved impatiently. Get going already. The other sect is waiting for your goods. We can't be lax one moment in tense times like these. Be careful on the road. Open up the barrier and let them leave. Yes, sir. Zhuo Fan gave him a long look and shook his head. He went inside a carriage with his men while whining. I say, irking someone is easier than walking. This rotten sect sure is laid back to not even want such a huge achievement. Humph. Executive Chao huffed and put on a straight face like he wasn't there. Once Zhuo Fan's caravan was off, Executive Chao gestured and called for 50 soul harmony experts. You guys will be following the caravan. Capture anyone that is sneaking behind it, and make sure to bring them back alive. Got that? Yes, Executive Chao. The men nodded. Despite their confusion, Zhuo Fan grinned to himself in the carriage. Lighten up. The lambs are out of their pen and straight into the wolf's mouth. Once the witch gets her fill, she'll ignore us. Quiet days await us, boys, ha ha ha. The others gave Zhuo Fan a curious look as he stretched in his seat, looking mighty comfortable. Chapter 988. Sheepies vs. Wolf. Chapter 988. Sheepies vs. Wolf. Proofreader, Papatonks. Passing the first stop, Zhuo Fan's caravan continued through the snowstorm, which covered their heavy tracks as fast as they made them. Though even in this weather, one woman with cruel eyes had no trouble following the carriages, even in their mad dash through the white desolation. Rotten punk! Let me send you off with a bang, and a gift, easing you of the burden of one more carriage, a couple of spiritual beasts and the extra mouths to feed. Humph! Bali Yu pointed her fingers, readying her sword art with vile intentions. Whoosh! Dozens of men in black landed right in front of her before she could finish the attack. They all regarded her with mockery as they released their mighty auras, showing their obvious intent to take her down startled. Bali Yu frowned. And who are you people? You have some nerve blocking my view. Ha ha ha! A tiny central area spy thinks that she can just go around northern lands blowing things up like she wishes? Now she's even asking why. You must be blind as a bat. Ha ha ha. A tall and muscled man stepped forward, sticking out his shredded chest and being cocky on the peak soul harmony stage cultivation he showcased as he jeered along his buddies. Brothers, talk, I don't think I've ever seen a dumber spy than her. She just goes wherever, ignoring her surroundings, to make a scene and actually asks who we are. Now isn't that rich? So what do you guys think? Should we educate her better, or... A sword energy was released the next second, running him through. He jerked once and stopped, frozen with bug eyes in disbelief. A stronger wind blew over, making his vision split in two, collapsing on the ground in two pieces. His insides were a charred mess, with all the blood evaporated and his soul pulverized. Senior brother! SSS. The other gasped in fright and shock. They turned to Bali Yu with fear, suddenly feeling sorry for themselves. Who the hell is this wench? Couldn't a dozen soul harmony experts scare her off? Why the discrepancy? And there were 50 men here, yet she just offed the strongest of our brothers. Executive Chow even wants her alive. God damn frickin' piece of garbage. You expect us to capture that? It's a miracle if we survive. Everyone looked pained at the icy Bali Yu. Their knees turned to jelly, their minds constantly cursing and only wanting to flee for their lives. This was supposed to be an easy job of spy capturing, so why did it turn into us going to the slaughter? What normal spy out there even has such ridiculous power? Tucking her hair behind her ear, Bali Yu regarded her prey with deadly charm. I gave you the chance to state your names, but you went on with your incessant prattling, boring me of ever wanting to find out. So I think turning you into nameless graves would be a better fit for you, ha ha ha. Whoosh! Bali Yu flicked her hand and a loud boom sounded, submerging the 50 strong soul harmony experts in the snowstorm and then removing them from this earth, leaving behind not even a drop of blood as proof of their existence. Boom. The string of explosions caught up to Zhuo Fan's carriage, shaking it. The guards looked out the window to see where the shakes came from with gawking faces. Sir, just what's happening out there to make such shock waves? The wolf flipped and had a bonfire for her lambs. Just ignore it and let's go. Leaning on his chair, Zhuo Fan closed his eyes with a weird grin. The others shared a glance, shrugged, and the caravan rumbled forward. While they put this event out of their minds, members of the Sun Sea sect couldn't. More like they had no choice. Not with how critical it was. Executive Chow stood before the sect entrance, smug and awfully overconfident in his success. Share merit with a merchant? As if. The moment he heard Zhuo Fan talk about this, his mind was made up on taking the credit of capturing a Central Area spy, all to himself. He never once stopped to think that maybe this was all within Zhuo Fan's expectations, which of course it was. Zhuo Fan had no intent of giving him further info. He only passed on the troubles to this eager scapegoat so perfectly that if the whole operation went south, there was no one to take the blame other than himself. And by the sound and looks of it, the suffering had only just begun. Executive Chow! A frantic and desperate shout came from a disciple he had just sent, scrambling over to the ever-confident and prideful executive. Executive Chow chuckled and waved dismissively. Did you get him? Ha ha ha. It must be one hell of a fish to get you so excited, haha. Where is he? To that is not, is the guy was such a mess, shaking and stuttering in fear. Executive Chow was annoyed. Well, which one is it? Spit it out. Executive Chow, the fish is beyond big, but what? Too big for us to handle. With a bitter look, the guy found it hard to speak. Senior brother and the others, they had the woman surrounded. But when it came time to capture her, she turned out to be so savage as to wipe everyone out. I had been watching from afar, in hiding, before I ran back here. Executive Chow, what do we do now? Executive Chow panicked. Did you say they're all dead? I don't believe it. These are soul harmony experts we're talking about here, with the strongest at the peak even. How can they all just die like that? Wasn't she surrounded by a dozen soul harmony merchants? Then she ran off? Executive, might sir have the wrong information? The witch is too strong to be chased away. In fact, we couldn't run away even if we wanted to. The man sobbed. Executive Chow was dumbstruck, but soon it dawned on him. I don't have any way of explaining the loss of 50 soul harmony experts. I won't be getting this great merit either. I can only go find Elderly. Yes, he. Executive Chow mumbled, while frantically dashing for the sect, his mind unhinged. A wizened old man sat on a couch in a lavish room. Executive Chow at his side. Executive Chow, your greed has made you lose 50 experts. And now that you can't handle the responsibility, you came to me? The old man mocked him, wiping his brow. Executive Chow gave a strained laughter as he bowed. Elderly is so sharp. I was only thinking of grabbing a spy and didn't want to bother Elder. Once the spy was captured, of course it was a merit to Elderly. Thanks to your leadership. I could never take all the credit, ha ha ha. Quite the nice way of putting it, but things have become messy. Are you expecting me to clean up after you? Elderly mocked with a sharp glint in his eyes, seeing the bobbing head of Executive Chow. Only a Genesis stage expert can kill 50 soul harmony experts so fast. Guard, summon 50 Genesis stage experts at once, and seize this spy alive. Since there's a spy, we should at least find out what she knows. Yes, sir. Hurried steps sounded outside. Elderly turned to Executive Chow. Little Chow, you owe me big for this. You know as well as I do how reckless endangerment, as well as losing 50 soul harmony experts, is punished. I am now sending others to catch her and make up for your losses, saying they died in the line of duty. With such a heavy loss and nothing to show for it, you'll suffer worse than in hell. Thank you so much, Elderly, for your help. I will never forget your kindness. Executive Chow bowed and simpered. His mind, however, painted a different image, one of rage. I not only lost a great chance at merit, but even ended up in debt. God damn it. Qian Fan, you call that information? Nothing about it was accurate. Executive Chow was filled with rancor, but squeezed a bright smile instead, a painfully hard one at that. Elderly stood next to him, like a parent protecting his child, alas. Any kind of superiority he felt here was about to be squashed, pulverized, and splattered by flubbing, sending sheepies once again to catch the savage wolf. Thump! Heavy footsteps rushed over and barged into the room, the Genesis stage expert having no time for common courtesy, as he watched the two men with fear and horror. Elderly, this is bad, real bad. The 50 Genesis experts you sent are all dead. What? Elderly gasped in shock, his jaw hitting the floor. Chapter 989, Playing with Fire. Chapter 989, Playing with Fire. Proofreader, Papatonks. Keeping that look for a few moments longer, Elderly was having trouble reacting. Only later did he turn a stiff head to Executive Chow with an eye twitch. Little Chow, are you sure it's a spy? I guess. Guess your pea-brain. Pa! Elderly smacked him real hard as he cursed. In the name of all that's holy, are you trying to get me killed as well? What spy out there has such power, erasing 50 Genesis experts off this heaven's green earth? She has to be a peak Genesis stage at the minimum. And you came to me without even knowing her strength? Now you got me suffering the same thing you have by losing so many men. Elderly growled, and Executive Chow only made himself small and winced under the verbal assault, proclaiming his innocence in his mind. It wasn't me who found the spy, but Chen Fan who told me that a dozen soul harmony stage cultivators scared her off. But now things went from bad to worse. First the loss of 50 soul harmony experts, and now another loss of 50 experts. But a stage above that, with such a hole in their mismanagement record, the two had no way of covering or straightening it up. Best find help Executive Chow lowered his head in silence. He hardly had any power as an executive to get this disaster handled and could only sit there like a statue and listen to the other elderly was so tense and vexed under this problem. He was stomping all over the room, sometimes glaring at the trembling Executive Chow, though this was no time to vent. He needed something to make those losses look necessary, not just that they were sent out to die after long moments of furious thinking. Elderly took a deep breath and walked outside. "Follow me!" Executive Chow rushed along like a meek puppy in a room filled with the intoxicating smell of all kinds of pills. A white-haired old man with a valiant face and shocked eyes shouted, "Is what you're saying true? To lose so many men, then the person must be incredible." "Yes, Venerable Ma, he has to be a crucial member and not just a simple spy." Elderly bowed next to him with a bright look, like a good devil on his shoulder. He must have a special mission coming into northern lands. We have indeed suffered many losses, but all we have to do is capture him, and it will become our greatest achievement in the northern lands. It won't stop at just our sect leader or the other 4 sects, but will even earn the respect of the other lands in our alliance. Venerable Ma, you are one of the 10 high venerables in our sect, but by pulling such a feat will send you into the top 3. Venerable Ma was silent, putting pressure on Executive Chow and feeling the need to speak up to drag him into this. Yes, Elderly is right. This is a chance of a lifetime, and letting it slip by would only leave other venerables to take advantage of it. Please make a quick decision, Venerable Ma. Well, it does sound nice. I fear she's already at peak in strength and can't be handled. Venerable Ma frowned, pensive, a cautious and weary man Elderly egged on. Fortune favors the bold, Venerable Ma. She's just a peak Genesis expert. It would be very simple for you to have her tied and brought back, especially with 10 other peak venerables. 10 against 1 at the same cultivation is bound to result in a win. The only risk that could ever pose this operation is if she detonated. Your words do make sense. Mulling it over some more, Venerable Ma's interest grew, but not enough. But if she isn't just a peak expert, and instead one of Central Area's 9 Sword Kings. Elderly dismissed his worries with a wave. Venerable Ma, you're overthinking things. Why so low-key if she were a real Sword King? Why sneak around behind a caravan? I believe she doesn't want us to discover her, since she can't take on our sect. That's unlike how an arrogant and obnoxious Sword King acts. Venerable Ma, there's no need to worry so much. Just get her captured. Venerable Ma thought it over some more, and then nodded. Wait here. I will invite some venerables to help capture this Central Area spy for our sect's glory. Venerable Ma flicked his sleeve and stormed out the door. The other 2 bowed. Congratulations, Venerable Ma, on your success in becoming a top 3 venerable. Venerable Ma was gone soon, and the duo sighed. Damn it, giving the credit to another again. Yeah, Executive Chow, mumbled Elder. Lee's face fell and smacked him again. Yeah, my ass. Damn, useless fool. Come, we need to wait at the entrance to congratulate Venerable Ma when he arrives. Elderly, congratulate. That's enough out of you. You still want a bit after all this? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Be thankful if we even get some crumbs. At the very least, we're the ones who supplied this intel. Elder Lee's brow shook, glaring hard at him in mocking. If we can't even do something as simple as that, we might not even get the crumbs, that old coot swallowing it whole. You might be fine with that, but not I humph. Elder Lee flicked his sleeve and left. Executive Chow needed time before finally exclaiming and rushing after him. Of course. With such a big fish, there's bound to be some leftovers, ha ha ha. The two credit-stealing old men braved the biting winds, the icy snow pelting their skin, waiting with such bravery before the sect's entrance, to sing the 10 venerables praises upon their return, sucking up to them for even a wee bit of reward, though reality seldom conformed to people's wishes. As luck would have it, they were up against a mountain so hard, nothing they threw at it put a dent in it. They had been waiting for a full hour before the barrier to the sect opened, and the 2 elders lit up, fixing their clothes for their greatest performance. Yet what welcomed them was the most familiar and elderly excited Venerable Ma. On his mission to catch the spy, the Venerable, however, didn't look so perky at the elders, though. Judging by his ruined clothes, his wretched and panicked return, it was anything but joy among the countless thoughts that ran through his head. Venerable Mayu. Elderly began with an expected look. Did you get her? Venerable Ma dished out 2 heavy smacks on both of them, throwing them off their feet. He did not forget to curse either. You have the nerve to show your faces to me? Screw you and all your kin. Truly, there's no one setting you up to fail more than your own dumb people. You came to me to get the spy without even having a clear picture with what we're dealing here. I ought to strangle you here and now. A venerable MS, you don't mean to say even you fail. Elderly gasped in shock the sudden warping of the Sun C-Sex barrier and its subsequent explosion, cut off his voice with the vanishing of the barrier. What appeared before them was the picture of grace in the form of a delicate woman, yet bearing cold eyes. Her fine features in a mask of anger. Venerable Ma fled without any hesitation, wanting nothing to do with this broad whoosh. Thousands of people landed just then, as the experts of Sun Sea sect showed to fight off the invader, unleashing all their power onto the woman. She hardly cared, though, her icy gaze fixed on the frightened Venerable Ma. She was out for blood thump. Clear and resounding steps echoed as a middle-aged man in a fancy robe walked before the crowd, glaring at the woman. I am the sect leader of Sun Sea sect, Bushingyun. Who are you, miss? Do you not fear death? Bushingyun of Sun Sea sect? Humph. The woman mocked him. You've got quite the apt name for your situation. Unlucky. I have a bone to pick with that brat and have been following his caravan. I have no relationship whatsoever with any of you. Yet why the hell do you pester me time and time again? Buzzing around like flies is starting to piss me off, even if you don't. So might as well finish you all off and end this incessant pestering. Smiley face, it's a pun. His name sounds just like the characters for unlucky. Bushingyun frowned and jeered. Finish off my sect? You talk a big game. Just who do you think you are, miss? Cease your boasting before you earn everyone's ridicule. The men started laughing in disdain. Only Venerable Ma shuddered in his spot. Chapter 990, Meeting. Chapter 990, Meeting. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who am I? Giving a charming smile, the woman darted her eyes to the fearful Venerable Ma and mocked. You don't even know who I am, and yet you sent people after me? You guys won't get very far in life with that attitude. Now listen up and listen good. I am Frigid Rain's Sword King Baliyu, personally appointed by the Patriarch of the Central Area's Sword Star Empire. A Sword King. Everyone gasped in shock, shivering and watching her with fear in their eyes. Elderly and Executive Chow were dumbstruck. The big fish spy from the Central Area they wanted to step over in their glorious career turned out to be one of the 9 Sword Kings. Who knew? At least it explained why all the men they sent died. Nothing good ever came when dealing with the 9 Sword Kings, sure. They were big fishies indeed, beyond anything they could fathom, but still not enough for even their whole sect to catch. Bushingyun's face twitched, and he choked. He gulped hard, his heart racing, and snapped in anger. For God's sake, who the hell was the bastard that brought a Sword King over? Show yourself this instant. Venerable Ma stood up in tears and pain. Oh, so it's you, old man. Bushingyun growled, wishing nothing more than to end him then, and there the Venerable was quick to get his wits about him, cupping his hands. Sect leader, please wait. It wasn't just me, Venerable whipped his head on Elderly, slapping him hard and cursing. Damn bastard, what are you doing inciting a Sword King? You had so many of our brothers killed. Venerable Ma, sect leader, Elder Lee's lips shook, feeling victimized. Then it was his turn to give a smack. To Executive Chow this time, leaving a red print. You good-for-nothing fool! You killed all those Genesis and soul harmony experts. Just why have you messed with a Sword King? Executive Chow choked from the tears. Sect leader, Venerable Ma. Elderly, the intel was faulty. It's not me, but the Chen clan's, Executive Chow was looking for a scapegoat. Too bad Zhuo Fan was long gone, leaving him all alone to take this monumental responsibility for this disaster. All he could do was pull a wronged face and explain. A Chen steward told me about this, so I went to capture the Central Area's agent. I didn't know it's a Sword King. Screw you. You actually went and believed some flimsy rumor without vetting it first? You're just asking to be killed. Bu Xingyun cursed louder. Then he bowed to Bali Yu at once. Frigid Rain, Snow King. This is a total misunderstanding born from these Mutt's idiotic belief in hearsay. You're free to punish them as you like. Northern lands and Central have yet to wage war. We're only getting ready for it and not starting it. Would you please go someplace else and keep the peace? Bali Yu snickered, filled with disdain. Bu Xingyun, you have some nerve. While both sides are about to wage war, you're going for peace. How come? Ha ha ha. Isn't the issue of the two sides because of Ouyang Lingtian of Sea Bright Sect? We have nothing against with your great empire. Spineless coward. Bali Yu's eyes shone and spat. You're one of Northern Land's 5 sects, and yet when the enemy is barging in your home, you only think of hiding in a corner. Where's your dignity, your honor in fighting off the invader? You're the exact opposite of that radiant stage brat, who at least had the nerve to argue with me, while you, oh big sect, have no bone in your back. Humph, you're nothing but garbage. I think I ought to do Northern Lands a favor by doing some spring cleaning. Ouyang Lingtian might even thank me for it, ha ha ha. Bu Xingyun's fave went cold. I take it then that miss doesn't want to leave. Take a guess, genius Humph. Then my son's Sea sect can no longer back down. Bu Xingyun barked. Bali Yu, I know your 9 Sword Kings are great, but don't think our sect is any weaker. We have hundreds of Genesis experts, with 100 at peak stage. Not even you alone can face such numbers without consequences. You're just a peak Genesis expert anyway. Bali Yu rose an eyebrow mocking. Would you like to test that theory? Bali Yu's face hardened and the constant snowstorm halted then and there. The skies slip next with the crack of a silver lightning. Sword energy flared and sent sword waves cutting the air, ripping everything in their path. The snow that dominated the skies so far has turned into a storm of silver, with silver sword waves in every direction. One looked like expected. Whatever the waves touched, it ceased to exist, making Bali Yu the overlord of this world. With none escaping from her grasp, everyone shuddered from fear, and Chill Sun Sea-sects tens upon tens of thousands strong were nothing but bugs for this woman to squash. At her whim and mercy, Bali Yu roared and unleashed all his power at her, with all the other Genesis experts doing the same. Ready to die, the heavens were filled with silver waves, while the ground was soaked in yuan qi. The collision resulted into a hellscape, shaking everything around them. Zhuo Fan's carriage was rushing through the snow still, watching at the bizarre event in the sky. He could even see how the air warped, shocking his men. Zhuo Fan hardly watched out the window, but this time even he was stunned at such power. A Genesis stage expert can wield the power of the world. In a battle between cultivators at this stage, it's all about fighting for control of said power. Bali Yu alone, in this case, has the skies on her side, pushing down on all of Sun Sea sect. They don't have room to breathe, much less use the world's power to fight back. The 9 Sword Kings are as strong as they say. The other men nodded solemnly. The 9 Sword Kings can destroy sects by themselves. Huh. Their amazement was short-lived as their spiritual beast pulling the carriage roared and stopped. It was so sudden, it almost threw its passengers off their feet once at full stop, One guard looked out the window, then said to Juefan, "Sir there." "Here it comes, ha ha ha." Grinning, Juefan knew this was a long time coming, unfazed by it as he watched the 10 or so people outside standing before their carriage. The one in the lead was a 3-meter tall old man, while the rest, keeping a respectful stance behind one guard, frowned. "Who are they?" "What do they want?" "Who we've been waiting for to show up." Holding Chower's hand, Juefan took a deep breath and got out the carriage. He regarded the tough old man with glinting eyes. "Invincible Sword Bailey Yutian, we meet at last." "What?" The guard gasped in shock. "That's the best in all the lands? What the hell is he doing here of all places? Why us?" They were still incredulous about this development, with Juefan smiling while pointing at the old man's team. "Take a good look around him." The others were frozen in place at the realization Baliyu's silver waves had been spreading for hundreds of miles from the Sun-Sea sect. Yet only the space around the old man was still tranquil. It was like the border of two worlds, cutting off the ravenous storm outside from the peace within. I reckon there's only Bailey Yutian on this earth that can overcome a Sword King's power and not letting the world power be disturbed in any way. Looking above, Juefan smiled and pulled Chower as he walked to Bailey Yutian. Without a care, the old man waited for him with a deep gaze whoosh. But then, among Bailey Yutian's team, one shot for Juefan, bent on murder and rage. Chapter 991. Invincible. Chapter 991. Invincible. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey clan high profound ranked martial art, space-rending sword. The opponent was a 6th-layer soul harmony stage youth with a fierce gaze, unleashing his most prized art at full force, all that power, put on display just to trample a measly 3rd-layer radiant stage. Cultivator, the guards cried out, "Sir!" Bailey Yutian's team were nonplussed, watching from the sidelines on how this turned out. There was not even a twitch as the Bailey clan picked on the weak. No shame whatsoever anywhere else a soul harmony cultivator went against a radiant stage cultivator like this. He'd only be ridiculed even if he won, but since such a despicable act was done today, and right before their patriarch, the answer to why was quite simple. A test Bailey Yutian wanted to test Devil Mountain and its overlord, to see if it was worthy of fighting it himself. This measly radiant stage cultivator had to just survive this deadly ordeal, and Bailey Yutian was going to fight Devil Mountain's overlord one-on-one with the disciple so ungodly. The master couldn't be that far behind, either. If the outcome would be the end of Juefan out of this, then Devil Mountain's overlord was just an overblown rumor. Or that Juefan was a fake disciple. He only got what was coming to him for even having the gall to trick the likes of Bailey Yutian, and so the Bailey clan simply watched the attack of one of their juniors unfold. Juefan figured out from the start as well, smirking and walking onward with Chow like he was on a stroll, with sword and man becoming one, and heavy lightning crackling in the sky. The man wielding the power of a divine sword flashed in his face and shot his fingers at Juefan's head, even as the target simply smiled. Bailey Yutian shifted, looking disappointed. So this is all the Devil Mountain amounts to. The disciple is but a common cultivator. Whoosh! Against the Crown Prince's awe-inspiring sword attack, Juefan didn't budge. But someone else did. Devil Mountain's low, profound, ranked martial art, Thunder Phoenix Claw. A sharp cry echoed in everyone's ears, and the Crown Prince's sword attack was moments away from touching Juefan's head, even giving him a slight headache from all that power. When a purple thunderclaw came out of nowhere, it grabbed his wrist and shifted aside, making all that power hit nothing but air as the attacker even rolled 3 times in the air before crashing into the ground in a cloud of dust. Not only the guards, but even Bailey Yutian was shocked at the sudden development. The Crown Prince was eating dirt on the ground, with the wee girl Juefan was holding before now standing on him. Her cute and tiny hand was holding the Crown Prince's spine in a vice, fine flashes of purple running through it and into the prince, and holding him nice and paralyzed, prevented from even releasing his soul. Everyone was dumbstruck. Along with invincible sword and the Sword Kings, this little girl wasn't quite at peak power, but even as a 7-year-old, to handle a core member The Bailey clan, carefully groomed with such ease, was simply insane. Anyone would think a girl her age wasn't even weaned. But to the Bailey clan, such age would need them to be at the bone tempering stage at the least, yet that girl right there handled a soul harmony expert like nothing. If that wasn't ungodly, what was? Was Devil Mountain filled with such monsters? Then our clan has long since lost first place in the world. We're nothing but ants to Devil Mountain's disciples. Bailey Yutian squinted, worried for the first time in millennia as he began to question his strength. Am I really invincible on this wide green earth? Ah! The Crown Prince shrieked under Chower's purple lightning as it seared his bones. He held it in for as long as he could, not wanting Patriarch to see him being weak and earn his ire for shaming the clan, but the purple lightning was just too outrageous to begin with. Coupled with the Bailey clan learning the sundering swords art, mutually exclusive with the purple lightning, the pain was just that unbearable. In mere moments, he was screaming like a banshee. Bailey clansman frowned, thinking of helping but never moving. Without Patriarch's word, Chower giggled as she tapped his head. This is but a taste of what I can do. This is for trying to touch my father. Chower claw ramped up to a third of her power, and the Crown Prince shrieked harder. Chower! Joa Fan glanced over. Let him go. Chower paused and nodded, bowing to him. Yes, father. She returned to his side, leaving the unsuccessful Crown Prince in his attempt, still groaning on the ground after trying to get his feet under him, only to stumble again. Chower covered her giggle, while Bailey Yutian was looking very dark, hinting Bailey Yulay to get the useless fool back before he made them look even worse. Bailey Yutian stared at Juafan now and gave a light cup of his hands. I've long heard of Devil Mountain's resounding reputation, and now that I see it for myself, I can say, for certain it is beyond imagination with how even a 7-year-old girl can wield such power. Sword Patriarch is too kind. Bailey clan skills have given me a newfound respect for it. Wielding such a sharp sword art is unheard of in the mortal domain. It's all thanks to the girl here that I got to keep my head. Although, Juafan turned to Chower. Chower, you were still slow there. Do you see the mark on my forehead? We'll resume training when we get back. Chower pouted and bowed. Yes, father. Bailey Yutian's face twitched, his heart in anger. The punk knows how to talk. First praising the Bailey clan's skills, then chiding his daughter for lack of training. This was a clear disregard to all of them. A child just got a Bailey disciple, thrashed in one strike. Yet he was calling that slow, saying more training needed? If that wasn't disdain, what was? Rotten punk, that's my line. I never thought the day would come I'll have it used against me. God damn it. Annoyed to no end for being served, Bailey Yutian had no choice but to bottle it until now he was strongest. He mocked the most since no one could do anything about it anyway. But now that Devil Mountain, a fresh and unknown faction, came out of the woodwork, he was left not wanting to get on their bad side. Not until he knew the full extent of their power. He had been cocky and strong his whole life. But this invincible sword wasn't so blind from pride as to throw reason out the window and look back in anger. One other reason he didn't let anger get the best of him was Juafan. He just couldn't see through him, even after all the testing he did, first with Bali Yuyu, and now himself. He faced everything with unshakable calm. He first wrote it off as being the attitude of the strong, but his thinking had now changed. Maybe he doesn't fear the 9 sword kings at all, not even me. Since a child from Devil Mountain was that strong, what then of the father? What of the overlord? Invincible Sword felt sweat trickle down his brow for the first time in eons. His expression hard. It was fear from overthinking. From big to small, anyone from Devil Mountain wasn't to be messed with. He got so used to having his way, even disregarding the good of the Empire for a moment of joy. In other words, he always got what he wanted when he wanted. The Empire could crumble for all he cared. He could just make another one, but in regard to Devil Mountain, he was feeling scared, like it was the end to his invincibility. Bailey Yutian was pensive for a long time, making the faces of the rest of them to sink. They had never seen their patriarch hesitating. Juafan's eyes shone. Grinning to himself, I finally got a shock and all the old man with shower. Now it's time to have an equal, no, overbearing negotiation. I can't just have Central Areas invaders show up in northern lands and ruin everything I'm after, humph. Chapter 992. Sword Patriarch's Fury. Chapter 992. Sword Patriarch's Fury. Proofreader, Papatonks. Devil Mountain has some harsh requirements, I see. Your daughter's attack was excellent, but Sir is still so harsh. Bailey Yutian gave Zhuofan a long look, assessing him. Before speaking with a smile, Zhuofan gave a dismissive wave. Sword Patriarch, you don't have to joke. A child only cares about making it passable, regardless of flaws. Education starts from a young age if one wants to straighten her character. This is the only way to remove any laziness and make sure she overtakes her peers. A little devil like that has tons of peers in Devil Mountain. Bailey Yutian's mouth twitched, his heart sinking. The others' brows shook as well, their eyes widening. Just how huge is this sect? Do these little monsters come in bulk, or what? Everyone there felt a chill down their spines. Even Bailey Yutian and his sword kings. It was a downright miracle for a clan or sect to have a monster, but to come out in droves? That was a disaster. The world would come to an end. There was only one invincible sword in the Five Lands, but in Devil Mountain it seemed to be countless invincible figures, and the more there were of one thing, the lower the title's value. Invincible Sword frowned as he became more distraught the further he talked with Zhuofan, but his curiosity to know everything was still there. Forcing himself to smile, to look as casual as he could muster, his stance, however, was no longer as dominating as usual, but amiable and chatty. I am truly amazed with how many talents Devil Mountain has. Bailey Yutian gave a firm salute, this time, as he cupped his hands, watching Zhuofan with a sharp glint. How may I address Sir? What matters have brought Sir here, to northern lands outback? Glancing over as he returned the salute, Zhuofan's tone showed no inflection. Sword Patriarch is too kind. I've already stated my name the last time I bumped into your nation's frigid reign, Sword King. It's merely Chen Fan. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. As for why I'm in northern lands, ha ha ha, it has nothing to do with you whatsoever. Patriarch can relax. I find it hard to believe Sir's name to be real. Not after becoming Qian's steward, right after coming out of Devil Mountain. Bailey Yutian squinted. I won't be able to sleep well either, not knowing Sir's real reason for coming here. You might be against my people for all I know. As Devil Mountain has shown itself in western lands, I have to be on guard. Bailey Yutian gave Zhuofan a firm salute, holding as much courtesy as demand. Sir, I ask that you help in easing my worries and not lead to any friction to happen between us too. Isn't Devil Mountain's age-long absence from the Five Lands matters proof enough? Zhuofan gave off an ineffable feeling with his casual demeanor. Sword Patriarch need only worry about his matters. So long as you don't disturb us, each will go their own way. Farewell. Zhuofan nodded and pulled Qiaoer back to the carriage. Bailey Yutian wasn't finished. Cupping his fist so hard he unleashed a tremendous aura upon the world, ringing the ears of the Soul Harmony Guards and making their hearts race. As for the third-level spiritual beasts, they were so scared they collapsed on the spot and shivered like leaves pausing. Zhuofan's eyes grew cold as he spoke. What's this about, Sword Patriarch? Nothing much. I just feel awful that by not knowing your great sect's goal here, it will cause a misunderstanding between our factions from which neither can recover. I just want to be clear on this, in consideration to everyone's situation. Bailey Yutian stared at Zhuofan's back, waiting for his reaction. He needed to know Devil Mountain's aim, and wouldn't have no for an answer. It was imperative to know whether they were with, against them, or just passing by. It just didn't sit right knowing there was such a strong force out there that might just step in when their situation was dire and make them lose everything they worked for. Invincible Sword's grand unification plan had simmered for so long now, and this time there was a high chance of success in one fell swoop. The slightest discrepancy from his goal had to be thoroughly removed. Not to mention, He needed to figure Zhuo Fan out. The kid was incredible, so the father couldn't be far behind either. But it still paid to know the details. For the next time he would have to deal with Devil Mountain, he wouldn't be plagued with so many unknowns his clasping hands were done harshly on the surface, to crush stones and the earth. But his softness within that didn't even hurt a fly, a calculative and subtle intent for a 10,000-year-old monster. He had gone beyond being a martial fanatic, having gained a shrewder side over the ages. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and nodded. Indeed, Sword Patriarch is undoubtedly right in this point. Devil Mountain doesn't want anyone to disturb us in this affair either. Ha ha ha. Sword Patriarch, you can relax knowing that our aim isn't the same as yours. You who want to unify the lands and take the 5 divine weapons. We are only after one thing, North Sea Demon. The North Sea Demon. Bailey Yutian and the 4 Sword Kings gasped. That same demon had wiped the floor with the best in northern lands, Ouyang Lingtian, on the same level as a Sword King. What made it worse, the demon did it in one blow too. Bailey Yutian believed it would be a hard battle, even for him, by having fought with Ouyang Lingtian several times already. He had an idea where to place the Sea Demon. Thus his current judgment. The 9 Sword Kings were nothing to him, but they could hold on for 5 hits at least, 10 for the most promising ones. The fact the Sea Demon beat up someone of that caliber in one strike showed just how strong it really was. Sure, 5 hits or 1 hit might sound semantics to the average man, but this slight difference belied the outrageous gap in strength of 5 moves for the 9 Sword Kings was the utmost limit to Invincible Sword, one that he strove to improve despite the toil it entailed. Yet that Sea Demon could do it in one from the start. That was just insane. This meant the battle was over before it began, like a 3-year-old meeting the demon, finished in one move. And the same applied to Profound Heaven Stage, Radiant Stage, as well as the 9 Sword Kings. Maybe even Invincible Sword would be lumped in as well. The first move was insurmountable by all appearances. Only by overcoming this trial one could finally gauge the Sea Demon's strength. While Invincible Sword already felt confident he could do it, so he had come here with the intent to have a go at the demon, to see where he was, what he was missing, and where he could improve. But now Zhuo Fan just stated the Sea Demon as his goal. Stunning Invincible Sword, asking in haste, "Sir's aim is the Sea Demon. What are you going to do?" "Subdue him." Zhuo Fan had no qualms about blurting out this huge lie, since there was no harm in talking big. The fact he said it with a straight face only made it more believable by everyone there. Looking at him like he grew a second head, Invincible Sword gasped, "Subdue? But he is a monster that beat Ouyang Lingtian. Why can you do what he couldn't?" "Why?" Zhuo Fan smirked. "Because we're Devil Mountain." Zhuo Fan held shower as he walked to his carriage, leaving Invincible Sword dumbstruck. Is Devil Mountain that great? Have they reached such a level that they can deal with the savage Sea Demon like nothing for him to be so casual about it? Invincible Sword's eyes shook, feeling against this outcome, shouting, "Wait!" Zhuo Fan paused once more, turning his head around, and saw Invincible Sword's anger on his face. "What is it, Sword Patriarch? Is there something else you need? Everyone knows of the North Sea Demon's savagery, and even I have reservations of meeting him." Bailey Yutian's eyes shone as his face was cold, releasing his aura to the extent the world dimmed, as purple lightning crackled now and then. "Judging how light Sir is taking this endeavor, it must mean it's just that easy for you. It is hard for me to accept this outcome. Since Sir has such ability, why not letting me have a try first?" The thunder rumbled louder now as the sky took a purple hue with purple sword energy flashing all over. Bailey Yutian's bloodthirst spiked, making the air shimmer and giving the feeling the world was ready to be torn apart. Bailey Yu's ever-present silver energy up, till now, was gone in a blink, swallowed by these devastating purple flashes. Invincible Sword finally struck with unspeakable might. He had dominated the world's power, giving nothing for even the 9 Sword Kings to grasp. This was the berserk power of the one called Invincible Sword. The best in the lands, everyone gasped. with the sword kings falling back to avoid the stray lightning. Their patriarch was about to fight. The guards, however, were scared witless, cowering in the corner of the carriage, while the dozen third-level spiritual beasts closed their eyes hard. Not daring to even look, Joafan and his daughter were the only ones unfazed by the old man's show of force. Yet their eyes spoke of the chill inside, as if he was a dead man. Chapter 993. To each his own. Chapter 993. To each his own. Proofreader, Papatonks. The cold eyes of Bailey Yutian bore into the calm face not far from him, unleashing the rage and power of an undefeated war god. Of a being no one could oppose, Joafan simply stood in the savage winds with a flat look and eyes so dead one might think nothing held any value to him. It cut this undefeated old man through the fury and to the bone. What's this supposed to mean? Is my strength that disparaging to him? Or is it that he doesn't believe that I could deal with him? Is that why there's no fear? Bailey Yutian's firm resolve began to quiver in hesitation. Think it through, Sword Patriarch. Joafan's dull tone sounded in his ears. By order of Master, we've come for the sea demon to take it back to the sect and watch the door and not get involved in the secular world's problems or your nation's affairs. But Sword Patriarch is making it increasingly harder for us to do so. Bailey Yutian's brow shook, his heart a mess. You're after the sea demon to watch over the entrance. Joafan boasted even bigger. If Sword Patriarch still feels the need to go on his course, then we will be forced to wipe you and your team for the sake of our mission. Wipe. Bailey Yutian's ego was once again pricked, sneering. You talk a big game. Devil Mountain might be filled with experts, but my clan isn't a pushover. Here, before you, are my clan's strongest. How are you going to wipe them? Joafan took a deep breath, then sighed in disappointment. You poor ignorant mortals, utterly blind to the vastness this world has. I had some hope for you, who stand at the top of the mortal domain, expecting you to at least glimpse into the truth. But you just proved to me how utterly clueless you are of your inferiority, and with such arrogance, too, Devil Mountain will remove you to the last one. No exceptions, the same way it did with the 5 sects in Western lands. It is hard by myself to get you all, so I will just have to use the treasure Master left me. It was meant for the North Sea Demon, and would be a bit of a waste using it on you, but since mortals are so ignorant, they insist on damning themselves. Joafan held out his hand, and the thunder ring flickered, releasing an aura of dread and horror. Ready to unleash apocalypse, Bailey Yutian's heart jumped. His brow soaked he knew next to nothing about Devil Mountain's power, and this unknown made it all the more terrifying to him. Further amplified through Joafan's casual act and the 7-year-old girl's insane strength for the first time. This unrestrained, invincible sword felt utter regret. He had been too impulsive, letting anger get the best of him because of his wounded pride. The fact that this man before him had something that could deal with the sea demon, then using it on his group, couldn't be easier, especially since the man said that it could wipe them all out. Bailey Yutian was sweating buckets, with his sword kings looking grave and scared as they staggered backward. They now had another figure to fear besides the invincible sword, and he unleashed his power on them. Invincible, sword Bailey Yutian, it was nice knowing you. While at last Joafan regarded him with dead eyes as his ring shone in a golden curtain of light. Unleashing its scorching heat, Bailey Yutian was frantic in stopping him. Wait, hold on! Why? Does Sword Patriarch have any last words? By peak of mortal domain, did you mean there's something beyond the Genesis stage? Bailey Yutian stared hard at him, smiling. Joafan nodded. Of course, from mortality, through spirituality, imperial, saintly, and sovereignty, the 5 realms of rebirth. Reaching the Genesis stage, starting from birth, will only comprise the mortal realm or domain. By going beyond this stage, can you shed the mortal coil and into the Spirit King stage, wielding the power of the skies and having endless lifespan. Casting away the 5 declines of heaven, and man's sickness and aging will no longer plague, only divine tribulation. and this is but the first and meager step on the path of true cultivation. And by stepping into the sovereign stage, you shall be immortal, undying, and indestructible. Those reaching such fabled, profound cultivation have been few and far in between. Smiley face. It refers to a concept from Buddhist philosophy, the 5 realms of existence in the cycle of rebirth or samsara. Each realm is associated with a particular type of existence and level of consciousness. The realm of gods, heaven, realm of humans, realm of animals, realm of hungry ghosts, and the realm of hell. There's a stage that high. Bailey Yutian shuddered at the news, while the other Sword Kings were left speechless. Zhuo Fan chuckled. Sword Patriarch, anything else you'd like to ask? No. Let's continue. Hold on. Bailey Yutian waved his hands around once again. Having heard such a huge secret, his usually dead heart throbbed in his chest, his eyes eager. What is Devil Mountain? Does it have people that have overcome the mortal domain? Zhuo Fan shook his head. That's a secret, and can't tell you. But since you're about to die, it won't make a difference. Zhuo Fan mocked. Bailey Yutian hesitated before withdrawing his aura with a shake of his head. I see that Sword Patriarch wishes to live long enough to find his own answer. Zhuo Fan nodded and put down his arm, the ring's glow fading. Though let me give you a piece of advice. When you're probing for answers, tread lightly, as some things are better left alone. Just like the sea demon, needing power beyond the mortal domain to be reined in. You're best avoiding him. Bailey Yutian sighed and bowed. Thank you, sir, for the advice. I shall. I only came here for the heaven-sealing sword and have no intention of offending the demon. When the day comes that I understand the sword path enough to overcome the mortal domain, I hope to pay Devil Mountain a visit. May I have the honor of seeing your overlord? Fate will decide. Zhuo Fan smiled. Devil Mountain's disciples roam the world to train, before returning to the mountain and inheriting Master's legacy. If Sword Patriarch comes across another disciple the next time, you may have the chance of peering into the sect. Bailey Yutian looked downcast, but nodded with cupped hands. Devil Mountain's disciples go into the world to learn and don't meddle in the mortal's affairs. Not to mention, sir said to have come for the sea demon. To each his own, right? Bailey Yulei's heart sank as he looked at Bailey Yutian, but lowered his head while it looked like an agreement. It was more of a request, one coming from the land's strongest invincible sword. This would have never happened ever. Bailey Yutian was a man of immense pride, however, here and now. The Devil Mountain proved to be of such uncanny might and had people that have gone beyond the realm of mortals. It came at no surprise for Bailey Yutian to take the initiative to go for such an agreement. Absolutely. Zhuo Fan grinned from ear to ear. Devil Mountain's disciples are always inconspicuous as they travel the mortal world and don't meddle in anyone's problems. With the northern lands under such tight guard, we don't wish to draw any attention either. Devil Mountain is a hidden sect, and we wish to keep it that way. So long as Sir does not bother us, neither will we mind the land's affairs. Bailey Yutian eased a breath. Finally at ease. Sword Patriarch, may I leave now? Please go right ahead. Zhuo Fan smiled, having reached his goal. Bailey Yutian bowed as he gestured with respect. Everyone else was dumbstruck. Since when was their patriarch so respectful to anyone? Whoosh! A white figure suddenly flashed over. Frigid Rain, Sword King Baliyu, clueless as to what transpired. She sneered and threatened Zhuo Fan. Rotten punk! You think that useless Sun Sea sect could save you? Humph, in your dreams. Now, I'll make sure to send you all to oblivion. Stop. She turned back to see who shouted at her and saw her patriarch standing there startled. Baliyu immediately bowed. Patriarch, he is that sneaky brat calling himself Devil Mountain's disciple. He must have earned your ire, Patriarch. But you don't have to lower to his level. I will handle him myself. Baliyu pointed again, ready to strike and exact revenge. A bam resounded just then, and she was thrown into the air like a rag doll. She was forced to cough blood, mixing with the snowflakes and turning them red. Chapter 994. Sword King joining in. Chapter 994. Sword King joining in. Proofreader, Papatonks. The soft figure rested harshly on the white and red feathery snow, jerking now and then as Baliu cranked her head up to see Bailey Yutian's icy and reproachful glare meeting hers. Patriarch, why? Bailey Yuyu was utterly confused. Bailey Yulei sighed and walked over to help her up. Bailey Yutian's icy tone came again. Yulei, who said you can go? Bailey Yulei flinched and halted with another sigh. He gave one sad look to Bailey Yuyu and shook his head before going back to his spot. Things have changed. Patriarch finds the kid untouchable now, but you just had to raise your hand. That dreaded power from his ring aside. Just as expounding on the realms of cultivation is enough to have Patriarch change his mind about attacking him, let alone us. He truly is an untouchable, deep mystery. It was the unanimous answer they all reached, with only Bailey Yuyu, the new arrival, being in the dark still. Sister Yuyu, are you all right? Looking from her to the Patriarch, Zhuofan smiled and walked over with a helping hand to Bailey Yuyu. Don't mind it. If others won't help you, I will. Ha ha ha. Pa! Bailey Yuyu slapped his hand away and glared with hatred. Beat it! Yuyu. Bailey Yutian glared. Is this how you thank Sir Qian's consideration? I don't remember ever having such a rude and brash clansman. Should I get my whip? Bailey Yutian cupped his hands to Zhuofan. Sir, she's always like this, stubborn and rude. Please don't mind it. It's fine. What sort of king would the 9 sword kings be if they don't have some form of pride? Ha ha. Zhuofan clapped as he laughed, then returned the gesture. Sword Patriarch, since we've reached an accord, it's time for me to go. Zhuofan took Chower back. Bailey Yutian's eyes darted all over in thought. Then he shouted, Sir, I'd be most conflicted if I don't at least make up for Yuyu's crass behavior. Why don't I let Yuyu accompany you, helping Sir in his mission? That should make up for all her transgressions. What do you say? You want me with him? Patriarch. Bailey Yu shrieked and looked from Zhuofan to Bailey Yutian, her eyes gleaming and begging for mercy. Bailey Yulei shuddered from disbelief. What's Patriarch after? Zhuofan paused again, just as he was about to take the first step on the carriage. He looked back at Bailey Yutian with sparkles in his eyes and a beaming smile. Sword Patriarch, I'm very much thankful for that, but I'm used to going alone. It'll be awkward having a travel partner out of nowhere. Also, it'll be so strange to have a great and revered Sword King as a mere travel buddy. Sir, please don't refuse my good intentions. Bailey Yutian waved nonchalantly and said gravely, Sword King Yu is strong enough to give Sir no trouble at all. In the case that something does happen, Sir can just ignore it and leave it to her. I don't have sword kings that can't even look after themselves. As for status, ha ha ha, in my eyes Sir is far nobler. Please don't shun my deepest sincerity, Sir. Zhuofan looked pensive. That's not exactly good. Sir, if you refuse, you're making me look bad. Bailey Yutian huffed in fake anger. We've reached an agreement to stay out of each of our ways. But by refusing me now is disrespecting me. I will even take it as a provocation. I can't vow I'll be a complete bystander when things get tough for you in your mission, Sir. I've gotten used to being reckless and regardless of the 5 divine swords. I don't shy away from being self-destructive sometimes. But if I'm rash, could Sir be as well? What would your honorable master say? Zhuofan gave him a long look, then shook his head. Sword Patriarch is quite persistent with his help that am I perhaps obliged to accept? Or is it that regardless of the price you'll pay, you'd still choose to be my enemy? That's exactly the idea. Invincible Sword was blunt. Zhuofan nodded. Fine, I agree then. Men, we're leaving. And you, Frigid Rain Sword King, hop in. Or you'd rather follow behind. Ugh. Everyone froze in place. Bailey Yu gave a confused look to her Patriarch. Why am I? Bailey Yulei frowned. But they took the outcome much better than those guards, who looked at Frigid Rain Sword King like their executioner. They could even feel a chill brushing their fair necks. Zhuo Fan hopped in first, with the guards rushing behind him. Bailey Tian glared at Bailey. Don't just stand there. Follow Sir Qian. You are to listen to his every word you hear, or you'll have to answer to me. Is that clear? Bailey Yu's face twisted. How on earth did it turn from hounding him to following him? But orders were orders, and she had to bend a knee after squeezing all that anger and hatred, and who knew what deep inside. She bowed with cupped hands. Yes, Patriarch, I obey! Bailey Yu entered the carriage, and the spiritual beasts were soon moving. Taking their masters deeper into the snowstorm, Bailey Yu walked, next to Bailey Yutian. Patriarch, why would you insist for Yu to be by his side? What are you after? Patriarch wants to see the real ability of Devil Mountain, knowing that the next objective would most likely be it. The Crown Prince smiled from the side, nodding. Bailey Yutian sighed. Crown Prince is sharp to see my intentions. On my journey, I have formed a sect, gathered experts, built an empire, everything a true man of power would do, I have done it. With the 5 lands on the verge of being won, my only adversary would be heaven, to challenge my understanding of Tao. But with how vast it is, the difficulty is just as high. It never occurred to me that a new objective sprung up, a hidden sect, Devil Mountain. The world has 5 more stages for us. The more I think about it, the more I regret taking it easy all these years. That's why I had you go with him, just so that I can assess their ability and not challenge them. I want to know the gap between us. Once I reach the peak once more, I'll visit Devil Mountain and have a glorious fight with Overlord 9 Serenities. I will become a true invincible sword. Bailey Yutian's eyes shone with savagery, his knuckles white. As the 4 carriages rumbled on through the heavy snowstorm, the dozen third-layer spiritual beasts puffed steam with every step, ice slowly forming on their bodies and hindering their movements. While the outside was frosty and dead, spring blossomed within one particular carriage. The guards looked at each other, tense, afraid to even breathe too loud. Bailey Yu glared at them with a cold smile of disdain. Send word to the Qian clan to give us another token with a believable cover for Miss Yu. Zhuo Fan glanced at them. They jerked and said, Sir, you actually. Yes, she's coming with us. While the next sects she can just avoid once we reach the shores of the North Sea. Entering the Sea Bright sect will be mandatory. Glancing at the frosty Bailey Yu, Zhuo Fan looked at the rest. She'll end up in pieces barging in as she is. Even a Sword King will find plenty of others at her level with how deep within the land we go. Ha ha ha. The others hesitated. Sir, that's not it. What I mean is, if you really want to bring her along. Well, I don't. Bailey Yu butted in. The only reason I'm here is because the Patriarch said so. Even if it comes to the Sea Bright sect, I have my ways of bypassing it. Zhuo Fan gave her a long look and nodded. I know you do, but you're with me now and follow my orders. That's a must. How? What a joke. Then there's the door. Go tell Invincible Sword that I don't need an insubordinate flunky. He should first educate his people better before sending them to me. Zhuo Fan snapped. Everyone shuddered in fear, not because of Zhuo Fan's anger, but dreading the witch exploding any time soon. She won't snap and kill us all, right? Though it was clear by Zhuo Fan's words that they hit Bailey Yu's sore spots, Bailey Yu put on a dark look and gnashed her teeth before growling. Do what you want, and I'll do whatever, humph. Zhuo Fan smirked with confidence. Chapter 995, Yielding. Chapter 995, Yielding. Proofreader, Papatonks. An awkward silence dominated as the carriage rushed between the snowflakes. The mood inside was strained, to say the least. Ever since Frigid Rain, Sword King joined the party, the others felt as if a viper was looming over them, shivering constantly. They were so on edge they didn't even twitch or breathe too loud with their now red faces. From strained Bailey Yu was casual, like nothing had anything to do with her. Just that she sometimes gave a disparaging smirk to them and to Zhuo Fan, who she abhorred. Just why the hell did Patriarch even send me along? Invincible Sword resumed to hide his tracks, and the men from Sun Sea sect aren't pursuing out of fear of the witch. All is quiet. Joie Fan sighed and spoke as he looked at the endless snow outside. Bailey Yu shot him a piercing glare. I'm right here, and yet he has the nerve to call me a witch. If it weren't for Patriarch's order, ugh. Bali Yu gnashed her teeth and reined in her boiling fury. Joie Fan didn't know when to stop. We've met with Bailey Yutian, and it could be said we had a nice chat, resulting in an agreement to each mind our own business. Though the old man was quite annoying on insisting and jabbing a thorn in our side, it won't matter much. The mission will still finish. He shouldn't be so set against Devil Mountain so soon. We just have to live with things as is. It wouldn't matter even if he filled us with thorns either. The rest were sweating buckets the further he talked to himself. They just kept hinting at him to stop with painful faces. Dude, that's private talk between brothers. Why do you insist on saying it to the enemy? Are you suicidal? This is a Sword King we're talking about here. You might find life boring, but don't drag us down as well. Bam. It came at no surprise that Bali Yuyu's short temper quickly ran out under Joie Fan's repeated disdain. She made a hard face at him and cursed. Watch your mouth. There's a limit to my patience. The others shuddered as the witch spewed hellfire. Ha ha ha. Yeah, if you had any patience, you wouldn't be a Sword King. Joie Fan just kept on going. But now you're in my employment, and you'll have to suck it up no matter how little you have. You best not forget Patriarch's words. He gave you a mission when he sent you to me. It would be a shame to go back empty-handed, no? I've seen the old coot style, and I'm pretty sure he won't let it go just 'cause you're a Sword King, haha. Bali Yu balled her fists at his mocking grin, spatting. I don't even know what Patriarch wants me to do, but you do. Of course, and so do you. I do. It's public knowledge, actually. Joie Fan gave a vague smile that had her confused. Then why do I still not know what it is? Joie Fan beamed and turned to Chower fiddling with her eagle mask. Chower, would you be so kind to share with this old crone what the geezer wants from her? Glaring at him, Bali Yuyu's anger spiked. But she turned to Chower with a questioning gaze. Have you gone senile already? We just heard him say it. Chower rolled her eyes, annoyed someone had to disturb her fun. Sticking out her lower lip, the old guy said to listen to your every word. That's her mission. Well, ain't it your mission, senile biddy? Ha ha ha. Joie Fan mocked as he glanced at Bali Yu. The others were still very much afraid of Bali Yu's savage wrath. But even they had to stifle a laughter at that. Bali Yuyu's face twitched, going beet red, and yanked at Joie Fan's clothes and shouting in his face, You're toying with me. Oh my, you better watch your tone. Bailey Yutian had you hang on my every word, not touch me. You're best worrying about finishing the geezer's task and not getting punished instead. Patting her hand, Joie Fan mocked her. Still, she was so furious, she wanted to slap him into the afterlife. The only things staying her hand were Patriarch's words. So she could only push Joie Fan aside and grumble into a corner with red eyes and tearing up. She was a woman of immense pride, favored since she was born. But now she felt the world was coming to an end. What is Patriarch thinking? Joie Fan smiled and turned to the rest. Frigid Rain's Sword King has principles, so she won't bother us. We can just ignore her as we discuss like usual. Our goal differs from the central area anyway, so it won't hurt us at all. The guards looked from him to the teary Bali Yu and nodded, feeling their admiration for Joie Fan soaring. This lord is incredible, shaking off the likes of Invincible Sword and the 9 Sword Kings with mere words. That worked in removing Bali Yu's threat, almost, and the mood became more natural, sir. Having incited the Sun Sea sect to deal with Frigid Rain's Sword King will give us headaches with Sea Bright sect. How should we proceed? One guard spoke his due. Joie Fan merely smiled. Not to worry, I only stirred them back there and not had them pushed to attack. Without any evidence, they can't do anything to us. You're the one who made them stop me. Bali Yu jerked her head around. Her eyes still having traces of tears. Joie Fan was quite blunt. Yep, It was becoming a pain to have you constantly on our tail and ruining our stuff. So we let it slip to those guys about you to stall you. Once you started attacking, you'd be sure to make a huge scene too. So big, not even Bailey Yutin could cover, so he had to come out and meet me. That's how I was able to strike a non-aggression pact with the Patriarch. While Invincible's sword had given you free rein to kill, but you're here in hiding after all. Once the noise gets loud enough, it wouldn't stop at fighting one sect, but drawing all of Northern Lands strong into this, so I was absolutely positive that when you got back to Patriarch's side, he would give you some heavy punishment. Giving you the right to kill did not mean you can go on a rampage. Now all eyes are looking here, a huge detriment to Central Area's team. So he had enough of your rash actions, sick of you being so bad at your job, and gave you to me to get rid of you, ha ha ha. You're full of it. Patriarch would never think of me like that. Bali Yu shot down Zhuo Fan's mockery on the spot. But then she said in confusion, "You just told me your plan. Aren't you scared that I'll tell it to Patriarch? Are you trying to trick him?" Zhuo Fan shook his head in disdain. "That's why I said you're bad at your job. You couldn't even figure out this simple truth. I was not tricking him, but you. Furthermore, your Patriarch noticed this from the start. He knew the moment you made a scene that you lost, so he had to see me fast before the Northern Lands strong showed up and wouldn't get another chance. So the question is, knowing his nature and going back to him by making it worse through reporting, how would he deal with you?" "Ha ha ha, I heard it was quite the stinging whip, he." Bali Yu grimaced as she gnashed her teeth. "You're as despicable as that conniving Bailey Jingwei." Zhuo Fan merely stared at her with bright eyes. He knew exactly why Bailey Yutin got this Sword King to watch him, to see the limits of Devil Mountain. But with such a strong asset around, it would be a damn shame not to use it. His mind was now filled of countless ideas how things might evolve or devolve. Over the next 3 days, the carriages had rode without any issues, only making a stop on the morning of the 4th day, when a guard perked up at the road ahead. "Sir, that's Galefrost Town. We have a shop here we can use to contact Qian Clan and give Frigid Rain, Sword King cover. Then we'll make a short stop there." Zhuo Fan decided whoosh. A whistling wind suddenly passed as a very familiar scent wafted from a carriage pulled by the same type of third-level spiritual beasts as there's got ahead of them. Zhuo Fan looked ahead at the carriage's back and his eyes shone. "That carriage looks familiar." Chapter 996, Meeting Immortal Healer Again. Chapter 996, Meeting Immortal Healer Again. Proofreader, Papatonks. The guard noticed Zhuo Fan's blank look and looked at the carriage going into the snowstorm. "Sir, these carriages are common. Is there something wrong?" "Nothing, just very familiar." Zhuo Fan was in a dilemma. "I just can't place where I've seen it." Bailey Yu used this chance to mock him. "You rotten man. Did you have too many old flames to remember them all?" "Old flames. Did you ever see a man driving such a fragrant carriage then? Humph, Sir Qian, you sure know how to spread your love." Bailey Yu patronized the other men, sniffed the air, and picked up the scent. The notion hit them as well, but kept it to themselves with lowered heads, though they still smiled a woman. Zhuo Fan thought hard for a bit, then exclaimed, "Oh, it's them!" "Who? A lover on the side?" "My auntie." Smiley face. It can also mean father's concubine. Bailey Yu capitalized on this chance to mock him. Chower's eyes lit up as well as she played along. While Bali Yu hated Zhuo Fan's guts, she ended up finding a friend in the small child. The two growing close these days, men never were able to unravel a woman's mind. The two girls became fast friends in no time, with Bali Yu leading Chowers astray. Pulling pranks together against Zhuo Fan ignored all that and said, "When young Sanzi got hurt, the lady inside saved him by sheer coincidence, and I've yet to thank her. I have to go say hello and figure out a way to repay the favor and not be left owing anyone anything." "You owe them a favor, so why the long face? Why on earth are you scared you may never return it instead?" Getting the picture, Bailey Yu was baffled how this cunning and shrewd man would look at favors with such gravity, restless all the time unless he returned them. This was a first for her. Chower waved her hand with a smile. Sister Yu, that's just how Dad is, always clear on favors and hatreds. My brother had the fortune to be rescued, and my dad used the chance to swindle them out of a treasure and must now be feeling guilty. They saved your son, and you robbed them. Bali Yuyu's face twitched, changing the way she looked at him, filled with disdain. I knew you were bad, and this proves it, repaying kindness with malice. Zhuo Fan sighed with a shake of his head. I just thought that 20 million sacred stones in exchange for a bit of North Sea gel would be a sky-high price, returning the favor. But not only did I not return what I owed, but ended up finding out that I took something worth 50 million sacred stones instead. Curses! How was I supposed to know that thing is so great? It looks as if I strong-armed them, filling me with guilt. Frigid Rain, Sword King, cocked her head with a wide smile and a roll of her eyes. Here I was thinking you're a conniving man, but now I know you're just a dumb fool. Who in their right mind would ever weigh the North Sea gel in sacred stones? How was I supposed to know? Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes, calling the driver. Hurry up and catch up to that carriage. Don't surprise them and make things worse either. The man nodded and sped up, Bali Yu cocking an eyebrow at him with a smirk. You sure go the extra mile when it comes to your saviors, devious man. Even worried you might startle them. I just can't tell if you're nice or pure evil. Devil Mountain does have an evil vibe, but does it raise demons or saints? Picking up on her angle to squeeze info about Devil Mountain from him, Zhuo Fan didn't fall for it. Returning a mysterious smile, Bali Yu's face fell, and cursed Chower grabbed her hand before she could. Giggling, Sister Yu, don't make that long face. You look so much better with a smile. Yeah, young Miss Chower is right. Frigid Rain, Sword King smile is like a warm spring rain. Ha ha ha. One guard teased thanks to Zhuo Fan's hard work and sharp tongue in putting Bali Yu's nasty temper in its place. Everyone pretty much lost their fear of her. Flushing red, Bali Yu glared at him. Try saying that one more time and see where that gets you. The guy flinched and shook his head around, but the more Bali Yu looked around at the others, the more she found their eyes odd, and her face went redder. But then she noticed Chower's bright smile that eased the tension and made her smile as well. She was one of the 9 Sword Kings, Frigid Rain Sword King. No one had ever said that she had a smile like warm rain. The ever-present frost and ice in the north begins to thaw under the warm sun's rays. Spring has come. Zhuo Fan gave his 2 cents as he looked from Bali Yu to the icy world outside with a sigh. He felt that the changes in the world are going to happen within the heart as well, the heart shifting softly along with the rest of the environment. This ineffable feeling left him dazed, finding it natural and harmonious. The carriage rumbled through the snow and followed the other one in front. They soon came upon a town looking like a pile of snow from the distance, with a 10-meter-tall stone plaque standing in front, covered in snow, yet still able to convey its words. Gale Frost Town, all the carriages stopped, and the driver said, Sir, the carriage in front has stopped in Gale Frost Town as well. We'll be spotted if we follow it in. What should we do? You guys get Frigid Rain, Sword King her token, and I will find the carriage myself. We'll meet outside town. Zhuo Fan spoke and reached out to Bali Yu. Take out your jade slip with your aura signature so they can do their job. Bali Yu pouted. There's no need for that. Is that what Miss Yu will say to Sword Patriarch? Fine, here. Bali Yu huffed and threw out a jade slip while still difficult. She at least lost her murderous glares from the start. These few days of chatting had helped in smoothing things over. Zhuo Fan gave the token to a guard, then he took Chow out. Missy, will you go with us, Odem? We'll be meeting back outside town anyway. I'm going with Chow or Humph. Bali Yu stuck out her nose as she jumped off the carriage, taking Chower and going ahead. Leaving the rest shaking their heads, the rest of the carriages stopped as well, and Zhuo Fan went to catch up to the girls. It was hard to see Bali Yu's expressions clearly in the dim-lit carriage. But now, in full daylight and snowy fields, her red, swelling cheek was quite conspicuous. Zhuo Fan rushed over. "Miss you, it's been a week since we first saw each other, so how come your face isn't healed yet?" "It will stay like this until Patriarch says otherwise." Bali Yuyu was stubborn, sighing. Zhuo Fan said, "But you're with me now. What will people think seeing you like that? Does it give the wrong impression? If only, it'll only make things worse. Now that I'm going to give thanks, your Patriarch will think I did this to you. How do you think it'll reflect on me? You don't care about face, but I do." Bali Yuyu giggled. "Fine, I'll just let your saviors see me. See just what kind of man you are. It should at least make them think twice about saving such an evil brute. You still say I'm evil? Heal it already, or just wait in the carriage." Zhuo Fan's face fell as he demanded, sticking out her tongue. Bali Yu was being childish for once. "Not happening. I'll be sure to wipe the floor with your name in front of your saviors, so you won't get to repay the favor. What are you going to do about it? Ha ha ha, you kept pushing me every time you got the chance on our way here. Now it's my turn. Ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan's hand shone green and looked at her coldly. "Bali Yu, I'll just do your face for you then. It's been ages since I last used Returning Dragon's Roar, and you'll make a fine subject." Zhuo Fan's palm went for Bali Yu, straight for her swollen cheek, bubbling with vitality. "Don't even try!" With a sinister face, Bali Yu giggled and dodged. No matter how monstrous Zhuo Fan was, he could do nothing against a Sword King Zhuo Fan, and Bali Yu ran around Chow'er for 30 moves, with Zhuo Fan never hitting her once. Chow'er was having a blast watching them and laughing. Bali Yu held Chow'er and laughed as well, feeling free for the first time in a long time. She teased and played the victim. Would no one be willing to save me from this deviant man? Curses, me a deviant? You have the nerve to say that? Who in this world would ever have the guts to be fresh with you? Panting, Zhuo Fan glared. "Stop this instant. I'm only going to touch it once. And you call it not being fresh?" An icy voice echoed. Chapter 997, Misunderstanding. Chapter 997, Misunderstanding. Proofreader, Papatonks. Just as the three were deep in their own drama, the sudden shout had them pause and looked over at an elegant figure watching them with anger and coldness. Zhuo Fan was stunned by her incredible beauty, almost to Chu Qingqing's level. "There's actually someone on this earth as pretty as my wife." Though his reaction only pissed her off more, lashing at him. "Had enough, Sir Gu?" "How do you know me?" Zhuo Fan started in confusion. On his trip to Central Area, he had borrowed this name from young Sanzi. But how come it reached northern lands? Another lovely lady rushed over and lit up at Zhuo Fan's appearance. "Oh, if it isn't Gu Yifan, how's your son?" "My young miss couldn't see you then, but she's still very concerned about the child. She had been hitting the medical books ever since we returned in hope of providing care." "Zhuo'er!" The first girl shouted and sent a despising look to Zhuo Fan. With Sir Gu's smooth skills, getting fresh with women in broad daylight, it must mean that your son should be skipping about, yes? How else could Sir have the peace of mind to enjoy such activities? Ugh. Zhuo Fan froze, looking from one girl to another, and ending up sighing. He wanted to leave a nice impression to their lord and savior, then pay up what he owed. But now all was ruined due to a dumb misunderstanding. And that damn Bali Yu was grinning like a cat, only making it worse instead of looking good to them. He turned into a degenerate. Either way, he was still going to try, and Zhuo Fan bowed. "Miss must be the lady that saved me and my son back then. You have my gratitude. How may I address the lady? Last time I was in such a rush that I forgot my manners." The girl held a cold face, not even looking at him. Zhuo'er despised him with a glare. Sir is quite the hypocrite. Across the whole word, there is not a single man who would not bow, enamored with her beauty and wanting to hear my young miss name. Sir didn't ask last time since you didn't see Miss Appearance, which makes this situation obvious. Don't you think your excuse is pretty lame? Bailey Yu made sure to interject with a giggle at his expense. Yep, lame. Zhuo Fan snapped a glare on her, then sighed. so he leveled with the two girls with cupped hands. Miss is misunderstanding. I have no other intention but to return this treasure I have no clue of when I took it from my son's saviors. Would there be anything else that I might do for the ladies to repay the favor? Joie Fan took out a gourd and handed it over. Jouer snatched it and gave it a check. Young miss, not a drop is missing. Return it. The young miss' icy tone came. You bought it with sacred stones, and we have no right to take it. No, no, no. Those sacred stones are to return the favor, young miss. Joie Fan refused. The young miss said, Sir should let me finish at least. It was a transaction, and I do not do any returns. Also, I never touch anything filthy. The girl flicked her finger, and the gourd flew in Joie Fan's hand. Miss, I think you got this all wrong. Joie Fan took the gourd and looked at her to explain. What Miss had seen wasn't the truth. I am not that kind of man, it was she. Joie Fan pointed at Baliu, but she was not about to let this once in a blue moon chance to make his life miserable, so she put on her most aggrieved voice. Miss, I am but a frail and poor woman. Yet this savage suddenly started hitting on me. Just look at what he did to my face. Baliu pointed at her red and swollen cheek, while slipping a taunting eyebrow in between to Joie Fan. Only Joie Fan's face fell, but no matter how much he seethed, he couldn't let it show. With the whole case clear-cut to Jouer, she cussed. We were wrong in saving you. Forcing yourself on a woman is an act worse than an animal's. Please, girl, can't you see I have a daughter as well? What man in their right mind would do something like that in front of their child? Joie Fan grew angrier as he shouted and pointed at Jouer. Jouer's brow shook, then raged. It's one thing to be vile and another to corrupt an innocent mind. You're nothing but a disgusting brute. Joie Fan's lips shook and gnashed his teeth, unable to come up with a proper explanation. There's no reasoning with a woman. Held some truth after all. Regardless of the ironclad proof you held, they would still not believe you. Giving you no chance of defending yourself, Joie Fan shook his head, pointing at Jouer. Can't you just ask my daughter as to what happened? Gods, you even want to involve a sweet child into your filthy act? You call yourself a man? What could such a young child even understand? And you're now trying to get her to lie for you, just to look good? Jouer's imagination ran wild in the wrong direction, twisting every word Joie Fan spoke. He gave a slight nod and sighed. Fine then, miss, you're officially my strongest adversary. You win. Think what you want, I give up. Since you admit, then I can't ignore this. The First Lady, shouted Joie Fan, shook his head. These broads want to force a confession out of me. So now you want to kill me since I admit it? Yes, the life I gave and the evil I sent out will all be taken back personally. The girl's eyes flashed with murder as she struck at Joie Fan, who, a biting wind whistled as the palm came, freezing the area around Joie Fan. Yet the sudden ice contained within its strange flames, turning it into a blistering furnace. Baliu cried out. Southern lands, high, profound, ranked martial art of the Morong clan. Glacial blaze palm. You're a mortal healer, Morong Shue. Morong Shue ignored her, and her hand flicked whoosh. A cold wind had Joie Fan trapped in ice, with the flames within it roaming over his body whoosh. Morong Shue ignored Joie Fan's fate and turned to Baliu with suspicion. You're no common lady to figure out my clan's greatest skill. You're not the victim here, are you? Ha ha ha, you know it's a lie, yet you still killed him? If you'd have looked deeper, you might have picked up on the clues and not have killed the wrong person. With a sinister grin, Baliu sighed and patted Jouer's head. Everyone says the Morong clan is righteous beyond fault, saving lives left and right. But then you start killing innocents, leaving this poor child an orphan to wander the cruel world all alone. But you can just come with me now, hi. Morong Shue gave her a cold smile. My clan always strikes with purpose. It doesn't matter even if you're at fault today. But he had unleashed a disaster in the central area, killing countless innocents. I have now rid the world of this evil, upholding the Morong clan's honor. Central area. Bailey Yu squinted and then exclaimed, "You mean Serene Shore's trading smatter was his doing?" He really did a number on all those imperial officials. I had totally underestimated him. Looking from her to Chower, Morong Shue spoke coldly. "I am a responsible person and will deal with the consequences myself. I think you're not very nice either. So the innocent child needs someone to guide her. Since I killed her father, I will take her with me and raise her. I'd hate to trouble you. You think it's that easy? We've gotten very close these days and won't accept strangers." Bali Yu gave a sneer. Morong Shue's aura flared. "I take it that Miss wants to settle this with violence. Stop dawdling and attack if you want. You're not your brother anyhow. You're nothing to me." Bali Yu's smile turned sinister, while the two were having a fit over who got custody of Zhuo Fan's daughter. Chower looked surprisingly calm about this, sometimes looking over at Zhuo Fan in icy hell and noticing a trace of the black thunder flames swirling around. Chapter 998. Holy Righteousness. Chapter 998. Holy Righteousness. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom! With a sharp crack and a deafening explosion, all the ice encasing Zhuo Fan turned to pieces before being eroded by the black thunder flame into nothing, including the blue flame within the ice Zhuo Fan walked on with his left eye shining black. With not a hair out of place from that ordeal, turning to the two girls, Zhuo Fan's face was stoic as he cupped his hands. "Ladies shouldn't fight, for I shall be the one to raise my own daughter. I can do without anyone else's help." "You actually survived my palm? How?" Morong Shue gasped in shock. Bailey Yu stared at Zhuo Fan, filled with curiosity. "You sure are something else. Not just of insidious mind, but of great strength as well. What you just experienced was the ultimate skill of the Morong clan, needing two great world treasures to train, the North Sea's perennial ice crystal and Southern Land's geocentric flame, the coldest of the flames. Combining them results in a mix of fire and water, water and fire, engendering one another in any situation. Under such an attack, the chill seeps into your flesh and freezes your meridians while the fire burns you alive. Anyone else would have been sent to oblivion, yet you lived through that. Now you have my respect. Since when was I just anyone?" Zhuo Fan glared, then turned to Morong Shue with a frown and cupped hands. "Miss Morong, I never knew you were the young miss of the Morong clan in the Southern Lands. I believe that with your brother by your side, there's nothing you'd need help with. Nonetheless, I owe you a favor that I shall repay one day. Now, however, I shall say farewell." Zhuo Fan gave another bow and glanced at Chower and Bailey Yu. "We're leaving." He was the first to start walking after his short speech, like he wanted to avoid Morong Shue, not wanting to stay a second more if he could help it. "I don't think so." Morong Shue shouted, unleashing another palm on his back. In her hand was a scorching coldness, so acute it quickly reached Zhuo Fan's back. Zhuo Fan turned around and his Qilin arm glowed scarlet, meeting the palm. He forced Morong Shue 5 steps back from the clash. While he staggered for 4 steps, Bailey Yu raised an eyebrow, the only indication of her shock first time. Zhuo Fan used some super skill to get out of his confinement. While this attack was met with brute force and repelled, her amazement only grew, finding the two of them on equal grounds in her eyes. No third-layer radiant stage cultivator should be able to handle Morong Shue's 5th-layer soul harmony stage power. What's this punk using to hide his cultivation? Bailey Yu squinted, content with watching from the sidelines and analyzing. Zhuo Fan Chower would never move a muscle without Zhuo Fan say so, striking the image of a most sweet child, especially around strangers, of course, that excluded critical moments. But it was obvious Zhuo Fan was in no dire need of rescuing. "Young miss." Zhuer grew tense as she witnessed her young miss moves having no effect. She rushed to her side in worry. Morong Shue waved her off, her icy glare set on Zhuo Fan. Stopping now and then on his Qilin arm, the ice was spreading, catching her gesture. Zhuo Fan raised his right hand with a faint smile. "Is Miss still planning to hurt me with that palm?" "Ha ha ha. I'm afraid Miss is wrong here. This arm of mine fears neither cold nor heat. Miss Frozen Flames have no effect on me. Juofan's right hand jerked, and ice broke off, leaving an unmarred skin behind. Without not so much as a scratch, Morong Shue's eyes shook, her face grave. Young Miss Palm isn't the glacial blaze palm, nor was it any martial art. But young Miss had trained with the North Sea ice crystal and had long since grasped fire and ice's natures, imbuing her every attack with them. Even a stronger adversary would feel his meridians burning and freezing, so how come? Jouer was overwhelmed as well as she muttered to herself. Bailey, Yu grinned in mockery. It seems to me that our young Miss Morong has found her match. It would have been so much better if he was stronger, making this debacle bearable. But since they're of equal strength, her amazing skill also got countered as well. Gosh, it must have been absolute torture to train in fire and ice so they become one with you. But much good did that do. It's utterly useless, huh? What did young Miss ever do to you? Why do you ridicule her? Jouer couldn't stand her young Miss being mocked. Morong Shue couldn't care less. Only looking into Juofan's eyes with a sharp glint, Juofan sighed, feeling how his savior was turning out to see him as a bitter enemy. He cupped his hands. Miss Morong, I'm sure you know by now how devious this shrew is. Who in their right mind would hit on her? It's a miracle if she doesn't start toying with others. Why must you then insist on treating me like a criminal? Hey, who are you calling a shrew? Bailey Yu snapped at Juofan with an angry glare. Juofan only looked at Morong Shue, waiting for her reaction. Judging by those sharp eyes, she was not going to forget this anytime soon. Still obsessed with getting rid of Juofan today. Hitting on women is a sin, but not a capital one. I am not attacking you because of this. I ain't so petty. Then why? Thousands upon thousands of poor souls faded in the central area, all because of you. I won't let this injustice stand. Morong Shue's eyes glinted with killing intent. Juofan was puzzled. Central area? But isn't Miss from southern lands at odds with the central area? If you'd still go for revenge, you shouldn't do it in the central area's stead. Miss reasoning would have been relatable if I had done such an atrocity in the other 3 lands, since we're allies and all. But against the central area, ha ha ha, it's both our enemy. The enemy should meet his end, and while the targets were officials in the central area, why did you have to make a patsy out of Serene Shores Trading? You had them take the fall while you ran away. Thousands of lost souls cry for justice. Such evil can't be left to stand. Oh, I get it. You think they... Juofan smiled. Miss must be so bored to hunt me down over some nobodies. But did you ask yourself if I was the one who harmed them? It was their own greed that became their undoing. Let me put it another way. They had been relying on the central area's nobles to start out and should have seen it coming. I only just happened to be passing by when it happened. Morong Shue huffed and nodded. You think I didn't know that? And I'm not doing this for them either. Then why? For the world. I can't let such evil roam the world for a second longer. Taking a deep breath, Morong Shue's gaze was resolute. Serene Shores Trading had only money in their sights and would one day bleed over it, cast out by the 5 lands, no matter how grand it looked from the outside. I was clear on that, but between thriving and decline, there is a process. Ants carry on their lives, and so do people regardless. Serene Shores Trading's fate was sad, yes, but it shouldn't have come so soon, nor involve so many countless other lives. This is all on you. Demons plague the world, and it's our duty, followers of righteousness, to purge you and uphold these values, regardless of everything. Yesterday, you had the greatest company in the central area meet with destruction, causing unrest in the central area. Today you show up in northern lands, in cahoots with people no less devious than you. Any who join the devil will be swallowed by the devil in the end. No one can escape. There are no bystanders. Letting you go today might even make me your next victim, or my family. No, you must be removed here and now. Juofan let out a long and tired sigh, nodding. I see, these are misbeliefs, even looking quite ahead. Yes, with me still breathing, countless lives will fall. Some might see the harm I do to be in their favor, but nothing is to say the same harm won't ever befall on them just as well. It is rare to see someone like Miss having such a strong heart and see the truth. What's rarer is people of misforesight. So long as people have the devil in their hearts, I still have grounds to live. Such a shame the two of us walk different paths. Farewell. Joie Fan bowed with a solemn look of recognition. Putting an end to the gratitude he had for her, he stopped trying to return the favor, for he had met holy righteousness against his demonic ways. Or better yet, she was a warrior who carried such beliefs in her heart, not straying and completely set against demons. Chapter 999. Ardent Sun, Sword God. Chapter 999. Ardent Sun, Sword God. Proofreader, Papatonks. Murong Shue watched Chua Fan give a heavy bow with full respect and was touched. She could feel his sincerity and sighed. You are the most upstanding demon among all that I've met. Like I said before in the carriage, as long as you can turn a new leaf and do good. Impossible. Joie Fan shot her down on the spot. Miss has her own righteous belief, and I have my demonic path. We each go our own way, with nothing in common. Miss, you're better off not trying to impose your creed on myself. Murong Shue shook and grew angry, snapping at him. Why do you insist on becoming a demon everyone hates? How much evil will you do? Does Miss think that the demonic path is evil? Joie Fan shook his head. Miss, you don't understand us. And since you have no idea of the path I tread, refrain from giving your shallow comments. We all have our beliefs, but it's best not to let them govern us. True righteousness only exists as a goal, while miscultivation has taken you quite close but nowhere near it. As the saying goes, evil never dies so long as a human heart holds it. Murong Shue looked long at him and balled her fists. I know nothing of Sir's demonic path, but want to know why you're willing to be so far gone within it to cause such harm. Since Sir insists on his demonic ways, I have no choice but to purge you. Murong Shue made a sign and extended her hands. Thousands upon thousands of silver snowflakes whooshed through the air in a violent storm, gathering into sharp icicles and coming down on Chua Fan hard. Not just Chua Fan would suffer from it, but everything in hundreds of miles would be flattened. The townsfolk scrambled out of the town, turning it empty, except for the few people fighting heavenly rain. Sky Dragon Mountain Coil. Chua Fan squinted in shock, but then he grinned. A half a kilometer long prismatic dragon appeared into the world, winding around Chua Fan and shielding him from everything. Bailey Yu gasped. The punk is insane. What's he doing using his soul against a soul harmony expert? Those icicles would skewer his soul and destroy him. All knew this was the dumbest choice, but they refused to believe someone like Chua Fan would make such a fatal mistake. There had to be a trick to it, so everyone watched as a hail of thousands of icicles stabbed at the dragon's soul, leaving big holes in it. The frigid cold seeped into it and froze it stiff, turning it into an ice sculpture packed with holes. It rattled under the heavy winds, inching towards collapse, moments away from crumbling to pieces on the cold, hard ground. Chower, since your dad got nailed, wanna come with me? Bailey Yu patted Chower's head, pointing at Murong Shue with a teasing smile. Be sure to remember that broad, since she killed your dad. Once I teach you all I know, you can go and kill her and get revenge. Zhue's brow shook, glaring at her, while Murong Shue sighed. You won't be taking that child anywhere, miss. I said that she'll be under my care. Humph. You're just trying to stamp her out. My clan would never stoop so low. I'll be sure to raise her well and school her to be sensible. It will be entirely her choice to seek revenge or not. Bailey Yu gave her a cold look. Anyway, she's not going with her dad's murderer. Do you take me for a 3-year-old that you're going to take care of her? What of it? It's better than letting her go your vile ways. I'm not talking to you anymore. You're just going to annoy me more. The two returned to fighting over Chower's custody, but the child had enough of their incessant nagging and stuck out her lip. "Why do you yap when my dad's still here? I may agree, but Dad won't." The two looked incredulously at Chowder, then at the frozen and ventilated dragon soul. "You kidding me? Who can survive their soul ending up like that?" As if to deny the reality in front of them, a laughter echoed. "My daughter knows me best." "Miss Moron," I said, "you don't know the demonic path. Your attack can't even scratch me." Demonic Dragon King, Dragon Soul Variant. The ice dragon sculpture bled black mist as it started swirling all around it, before being sucked back in the black mist faded, and so did the huge dragon, leaving only Juefan behind and his ineffable smile, untouched of course. That was young Miss' strongest attack. How is it possible when it struck his soul? Even Jouer cried out in shock. Baliu reacted with no little amazement at the stunt he pulled. He had upped her entire understanding of the world, surviving despite having his soul injured beyond repair. What kind of cheat was that? Juefan clapped and gestured for Chowder to come over. She skipped to him with a smile, leaving Morong Shue filled with doubts. Juefan took the child's hand and offered Morong Shue one last smile. "Miss Morong, I just wanted to return the favor for saving us. But since you insist on being so against my type, I would have to refrain from staying too close to you either, lest my demonic energy would rub off on you and ruin your illustrious name. Thus, I chose to take Miss' attack and let us be square. From now on, Miss walks in the light of day, while myself on the narrow, flimsy bridge never to meet. This is the end of my attachment. Goodbye." Juefan left with Chowder. "Now hold on. What's that supposed to mean? You put your soul and life at risk by taking my attack, then you see it as if you're doing me a favor?" Morong Shue grew anxious, not accepting this outcome at all. She darted for Juefan, but not to attack, only to grab him and make him talk sense. "I have always been true in my actions, never asking anything in return regardless of the lives I save. When purging demons, I don't need your permission either." "How is that related to your actions? How does that qualify as becoming even? Halt and speak clearly." "Yu, stop her." Juefan spoke, and Baliu smirked with a roll of her eyes. "Why should I?" Juefan called once more, knowing she wasn't going to play ball. "The old man, remember. You just keep holding him over my head." Baliu's face twitched and huffed in annoyance from being toyed with. "You only know to boss me around. I'll get you for this." While she nagged and whined, she did his bidding, flashing before Morong Shue, and stopping her. Morong Shue glared at her and struck with an icy palm. "Move!" "Humph, lass. You're quite ignorant thinking you can strike me." Baliu smirked and unleashed her huge aura. Morong Shue was flung back and bled from the mouth, but was too shocked to care about that little detail. "Genesis stage expert!" He, prissy girl, now you understand who you're messing with." Baliu looked obnoxiously smug with her nose in the air. "Your Ian's too early to fight me, humph." "Yu, cut the chatter and let's go." Juefan spoke without turning. Baliu grumbled, her good mood deflated, though she still followed after Juefan. "What are you so cocky about? You're only alive because Patriarch wants it, humph." Baliu kept ranting behind Juefan and gnashing her teeth, but then a scorching wind engulfed the town, melting all the snow in a blink across the entire area. Morong Shue lit up in joy. "Brother!" Southern land's strongest, ardent sun, sword god Morong Lai. Juefan's brow shook and Baliu paused, as well as her face grew grave for the first time today. Chapter 1000 Clash. Chapter 1000 Clash. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh! The first thing that caught the eye was the bright red warrior robe he wore, fluttering in the wind. As one looked higher, they began to notice that this middle-aged man was built for battle, his eyes sharp and having a stubble instead of a beard. His features only contorted into a savage look as he noticed Morong Shue's wounded state. "Shue, what happened?" "Clan head, they did this to young miss." Jouer sprung up now that backup was here and bowed while pointing at Juefan's group with reproach. "Clan head, You have to make them pay for what they did to young Miss. Young Miss even saved that punk and his son once, yet he only knows how to repay kindness with cruelty, pitting that witch into harming young Miss. Clan head, you must do right by young Miss. Joe Fan shook his head with a wry smile. He just knew Joera was nothing but trouble. She had front row seats to the truth of the matter, but was sly enough to do a selective summary on the facts she wanted. She even labeled him a repulsive ingrate, all to get the Morone clan head to fight him in anger. This broad sure knows how to incite hatred. Such a waste of a good, demonic talent. Brother, Morone Shwe started, wanting to explain everything, but he gestured for her to stop glancing at her impatient look. Morone Lai turned to Juafan. I am Morone Lai, from the Morone clan in southern lands. I was taking a short rest from my journey to the North Sea's shore after being invited, but just a few days ago, word reached me that something happened in the Sun Sea sect, so I came to investigate. May I ask who all of you are, and whether or not you have heard of Sun Sea sect's predicament? Bailey Yu clenched her fists, her eyes sharp with bloodthirst. Morone Lai gave her a smirk, then his finger began to shake. Southern land's strongest. Ardent Sun, sword god Morone clan head, we finally meet. Joe Fan looked at Morone Lai over his shoulder. We're just passing by and aren't aware what might have happened to Sun Sea sect. We're unable to help Morone clan head and ask that you see for yourself. As for today in this town, it was all just a big misunderstanding with your sister, but it's cleared now. You are free to ask her the details, and I believe you will come to understand everything. As we're in a bit of a hurry, we'll be leaving. Goodbye. Joe Fan walked on with Chower, with Bali Yu stepping livelier behind the Morong. Lai raised his voice again. Wait, what has gotten Sir so hasty? I have been around southern lands for many years, and not many are those who can't speak reason, while the Morong name always values righteousness above all else. As there's an issue between my sister and Sir, I would play the middleman in analyzing the situation. I'll be sure to give my sister a proper punishment if whatever she's done was wrong. But if it were just a misunderstanding, then we can move on, and Sir and I can drink to that as friends. Wouldn't that be better? Morong Lai spoke with respect and dignity, like a true leader of his clan. Morong did live up to its name of being fair. Anyone else would have done a 180 on the spot and hung out with the best clan head in southern lands for days and days. This was a prime occasion to be moving on up a shame. Joe Fan found such practice in his detriment for this particular endeavor, in which subtlety was much prized, to say nothing of Bali Yu. Joe Fan shook his head in refusal. Morong clan head, I thank you for the offer, but I am needed elsewhere and can't be late. Next time I'm free, I'll be sure to pay the Morong home a visit. All I hope is that clan head wouldn't mind me troubling him for a few days then. As for now, I shall take my leave. Joe Fan was getting impatient about making a quick exit. Now hold on, Sir. There's still some things I need your help in understanding. Morong Lai's suspicions were raised, and he shouted. Joe Fan turned a deaf ear. Going further away, Morong Lai felt convinced now. They looked too suspicious and may very well turn out to be Central Area spies. So he sprinted straight for them. Is Sir's haste due to guilt? Not even able to look me in the eye. Whoosh! He was about to catch up to Joe Fan, reaching out his hand. But then a cold palm got in between. Thunder flashed and wind howled as a strong sword wave came at Morong Lai's head. Morong Lai's heart skipped a beat in his chest, having rarely met with people so against him as to unleash such deadly strikes. He had no choice but to rush a counter, in the form of a burning sword from his finger. Bam! Everything shook from the clash. The shockwave of a Sword King-level expert, turning the town into ruins as it sent dust everywhere. The shockwave was so strong that it blew Morong Shwe and Juer away with the dust, falling soon after. Looking up, they saw an unfamiliar view, with nothing but broken pieces everywhere. Brother always knows to hold back, so why? Morong Shwe cried out in distress, looking ahead and then shuddering in fright. Morong Lai had a solemn gaze in front of the fierce storm, his hand still shaking as lightning crackled along his hand and fingers. In that storm stood Joe Fan holding Chower's hand, with the icy Bali covering them in front crash. Jouer crawled out of some rubble, looking dazed and overwhelmed from the experience. When she noticed her young miss, she rushed over in panic. "Young miss, tell me what's going on. Why would Clan Head destroy the town?" It wasn't him, forced to give more strength than he wished due to meeting such a powerful opponent. Their clash resulted in what we see around us. Morong Shwe shuddered, looking at the trio in the distance with a heavy look. "The only ones in this world strong enough to contend with my brother are the best in each land, as well as the central area's 9 sword kings. But my brother is very familiar with the other land's strongest, which means this sudden opponent has to be a sword king." Jouer gasped in shock as she stared in Bailey Yu's direction with shaky legs. Her heart sank and sweat poured out of her like a waterfall. "Young miss, that was too dangerous. Going against a sword king like that. What if she wanted to kill young miss?" Morong Shwen nodded and sighed. "Even I didn't think I'd meet a sword king here. But if she's a sword king, then what about Gu Yifan? I have traded blows with him, but he lacked the strength a sword king had, despite using some baffling skill. He's not even in the Genesis stage. So, how did he get a sword king to save his life? Maybe he's a prince." No, the 9 sword kings only listened to the invincible sword, and sometimes to their prime minister. They'd ignore even their emperor. Morong Shwe sank in thought. Just who is Gu Yifan? He killed at the 3rd of the Sword Star Empire's officials. So how is it that he is together with a sword king? Morong Shwe did not understand, while Jouer looked perplexed at her, but then she exclaimed, from shock and fear, "Oh God, oh God! I just talked trash about him, and now he'll send the 9 sword kings after me. What should I do? Young miss, I'm too young to die. I told you to not talk without thinking. Now look where it got you." Morong Shwe glared at her, then shook her head. "But you can relax, knowing that the 9 sword kings would assassinate you and turn you into a celebrity overnight. Your death will be worth it. I don't want to be famous. I just want to live. Girl, that ship has sailed." Morong Shwe shook her head and gave Jouer a dumb look. Morong Lai and Bali Yu exchanged an attack, thus giving a huge clue to Zhuofan's identity. Morong Lai was now on guard, staring constantly at Zhuofan, while at the same time filled with the same doubts his little sister had. "I heard that there's only one woman among the 9 sword kings, Bailey Yu, but I'm afraid I have yet to learn of your great name, having the frigid rain, sword king, for a guard." "You have it all wrong, Morong clan head. We're not from the central area, just crossing paths. Please do not jump to conclusions." Zhuofan didn't turn around as he gave a composed smile, or it wouldn't have been me talking to you right now, but that invincible sword geezer. Geezer. Morong Lai was taken aback there. All of the central area's nobility and officials worshipped Invincible Sword, with none even daring to speak bad about him. Not even criminals would show anything less than respect to the patriarch. Yet this guy has no care about all that. Is he not related to the central area? Was there another power besides those obvious experts that can contend with the 9 sword kings? Morong Lai was then struck by a crazy thought about Zhuofan, and his suspicion fell as a result. Only Bali Yu balled her fists in silent rage. Calling patriarch names with her around was the same as spitting in her face. Chapter 1001, Sacred Weapon Fight. Chapter 1001, Sacred Weapon Fight. Proofreader, Papatonks. Not letting Zhuofan out of his sight, Morong Lai felt very much disturbed, continuing the questioning. "As sir is not from central area, who might you be? Where do you come from? And what's the purpose of your visit in northern lands?" "I've already said it. We're just passing by. There's no need to look any further. I am not prone to disrespect anyone like today, but the northern lands are now in a precarious state, giving me no choice but to insist, sir. And if I still refuse—" Zhuofan squinted with a thin smile. Morong Lai released his powerful aura, his eyes hard with determination. You'll have to excuse me for detaining you until it's made clear as to who Sir is. Ha ha ha, it seems to me that Ardent Sun Sword God is a bit on the conceited side. Zhuo Fan took Qiaoer's hand and kept on walking, his voice casually reaching Baileyu. I'm leaving with Qiaoer. Be sure to catch up later. Morong Lai squinted and acted while shouting. Is Sir just going to leave me hanging? Do I mean nothing to you? Whoosh! Baliyu made sure to intercept his attempt. Regarding him with a frosty countenance, Morong Lai knew this was coming, and the world around him began to boil as endless fires came into being. The harsh and cold northern lands and its fierce snowstorms turned into a blistering volcano in an instant, the searing heat rising high enough to make lava the ice and snow that had been growing for centuries around the area, instantly turned to steam before vanishing altogether from icy wasteland. The north had become a scorching hell. The world was at Morong Lai's whims. Peak Genesis stage held the power to make all beings in the world unable to escape his grasp, while anyone else would have soiled themselves at such a display. Baliyu wasn't impressed by the best in southern lands. Her icy stare held sparks. Just before she released her own awe-inspiring power, thunder rumbled incessantly while the world took a silvery glow. The blistering hell had now started to rumble heavily, turning into a silvery ocean, with lightning sword energy snaking across, promising extreme destruction at the slightest touch. With the world split in two like this, Morong Shui and Jue'er gasped. They were sure Baliyu was strong, but to find out she could be on equal grounds with her big brother was a whole new concept to grasp in an extreme battle of Sword King-level adversaries. No place could offer the slightest amount of cover, not when the world could shift at any second from their clashes. Ha ha ha. Miss is a true rarity. You truly have the power to stall me. No wonder he was so confident. We could be fighting for days, and there still won't be any result, let alone thinking of following afterward. Looking at the sky split in two from their power, then at the casual Zhuo Fan making his leave, Morong Lai laughed, but then his smile turned sinister. You're missing something, however. Miss may be my equal in power, but won't last 10 moves if I'm serious. TCH, you sure know how to brag. Baliyu sneered. They say the Morong clan head is wise, but now I see you're nothing but an arrogant man. From our earlier exchange, it's clear that none of us hold the advantage, with a victor coming out only when the situation is dire. But it might take years for that to happen. Now the Morong clan head is so cocky to say that in 10 moves you can best me? Ha ha ha. Are my skills so weak compared to your clan's special arts? Morong Lai shook his head, giving a vague smile. Miss, there's nothing ordinary about you, having reached a level of power no less than mine. Your clan must have a long legacy, with intricate skills. My clan has earned itself a bit of reputation on the outside, but it's not so conceited as to dismiss every other hero out there. So why then the declaration of 10 moves? Baliyu gave him a cruel look of contempt. Morong Lai sighed and shook his head. It should be my fortune to be able to spar for thousands of blows with such a powerful miss. But in this case I can't indulge others' requests in favor of harming the northern lands. I only hope Miss would be kind enough to forge me. Morong Lai gave a slight gesture of respect. Then his face hardened. A seething golden fire came from his hand, coalescing into a 2-meter-long burning golden sword. With its appearance, the world shifted. The inferno around Morong Lai surged higher and higher, unleashing its power like a torrential flood upon Baliyu's silvery side of the world. It took moments to swallow it whole, even the lightning of sword energy whoosh. The world took on scarlet hues, the heat spiking higher and higher, making the very ground hiss under the strain. All the world around them was in Morong Lai's grasp, and with the world growing hotter signified his attacks would be that much stronger. Baliyu's eyes shook and cried, the divine weapon of southern lands, decimating divine sword. Precisely. Morong Lai grinned with confidence. He gave it a light wave and held it before him with a sigh. Miss, forgive me for cutting short our fight, taking out the divine sword and claiming victory. But, as I've said, I'd be most happy to entertain, miss, on any other occasion. Please forgive me. Morong Shue and Zuair lit up with joy that the clan head won no matter how strong the woman was. The clan head had a rare divine weapon to help him tip the situation in his favor, unlike the common spiritual weapons everyone else wielded. A divine weapon would only unleash more power the stronger its user, meant that with Morong Lai just holding the decimating sword, his victory was certain. It validated his earlier challenge of defeating Bali Yu in 10 moves. Zhuo Fan wouldn't be going anywhere. Bali Yu stared hard at Morong Lai, biting her lip to match the decimating sword. Patriarch's sundering sword was required. But Patriarch would never let go of his precious. To say nothing of him being nowhere near here, her loss was set in stone the minute a divine sword was involved. This rotten outcome filled the Sword King with nothing but anger and chagrin. As a fellow practitioner, Morong Lai knew her feelings well and sighed. Miss, please disregard this encounter and not take it as a loss. I am forced by circumstances. Morong Lai no longer looked at the resentful Bali Yu and regarded Zhuo Fan in the distance. Sir, Miss has already lost. Do you still intend to leave? Why, of course. Zhuo Fan never missed a step. She can't beat you, but it's enough to give me plenty of time. Even a snail would get thousands of miles in that period. Morong Lai cocked an eyebrow, then mocked. Stall me? She won't be doing that after 10 moves. Both of you know that. Bali Yu's face sank, her fists clenched tight. If I say she can stall, then that's what she'll do. Don't believe me? Zhuo Fan gave off an evil smirk. Morong clan head, earlier you said your clan has a bit of reputation, but won't disparage other experts. The way I see it, you really are conceited, considering everyone beneath you. Do you consider yourself unique for wielding a divine weapon? Morong Lai's eyebrow shot up and his heart quivered. You can't possibly mean. You guessed it. In this fight, the one who slipped up isn't me but you. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone, and a black edge rose from his palm. A scarlet sword with black lines soon came into view. Zhuo Fan threw it at Bali Yu. Take it and be sure to enjoy the Morong clan head's fine arts. Chapter 1002, Upheaval. Chapter 1002, Upheaval. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh! A black lightning cut the heavens as Bali Yu grasped the black sword. Blackness seeped into the scorching world around, giving it eerie hues and vibes. Along with it came creepy sounds, like that of demons, fearful and horrifying. Bali Yu stared the humming sword agape. She could feel its power, its spirit, no less the likes of Patriarch's sundering sword and Morong Lai's decimating sword. This was a divine weapon. But which land did it belong to? Why haven't I heard of it before? Was there a strange divine weapon with black lines among the 5 divine weapons? Morong Lai's brow shook in disbelief. The decimating sword in his hand started humming as well, filled with rage for meeting its archenemy. What's going on with the decimating sword? Looking at the shaking sword in his hand, Morong Lai frowned and his eyes shone. What had the divine weapon so excited? It didn't act like this before, even when meeting other divine weapons. So why now? Zhuo Fan, however, knew the reason the divine weapon got incensed at the appearance of the demonic sword, because it was once the vaulting sword, having changed its looks with the new resident sword spirit. The great 5 sacred weapons had been forged together, and now 2 met to find one unrecognizable. Even people would be too shocked for words. Lucky the sword spirits couldn't talk, or the vaulting sword would have spat fire. Who the hell are you, bastard, to rob my brother's home? Where is my brother? He's 6 feet under. How did he die? Master wiped him out, since he didn't listen to reason. And that was how it went. With a creepy smirk, Zhuo Fan tuned into the 2 swords' alternate humming, supplying his own melodramatic script to fit them. No matter how hostile the swords are, their wielders have no clue whatsoever. You have a divine sword now, so don't just stand there. Attack! The sword humming had the 2 stunned for a moment, and Zhuo Fan's shout pierced their confusion. Bali Yu shook and then grinned at the demonic sword. feeling her spirits lifted. She now had the means to give Morong the fight he wanted. With both of us having divine swords, no one can tell the outcome. Bali Yu pushed her power through the divine sword, and the humming intensified until an energy shot out of its tip and into the clouds above. It was a veritable thunderstorm now, with billowing winds and flashes of silver having replaced the predominant scarlet skies. The lightning and the sword energy mixed, spreading around and ripping apart the red clouds of fire. The world had changed once more in mere seconds. Even though the area wasn't that huge, a third of the fire clouds were gone. This proved Bali Yu now had the power to outlive the next 10 strikes, while Morong Lai's dominating position had crumbled with the loss of control over the skies. The two wielded divine swords, cutting any chance of making such a battle short. Grinning, Zhuo Fan waved and kept walking off with Xiaoer. You two take your time and have fun. I'll be going now, ha ha ha. Morong Lai's face twitched, furious as he watched Zhuo Fan slip away. Then he turned to his opponent and her evil smile with a sigh. This is going to take some time. Yeah, there's no way 10 moves are enough, not even 100, hee hee. Bali Yu beamed, rushing Morong Lai. Clanhead, I've yet to use a divine sword in my life, so now that I have an opponent to match, be sure to go for a couple of rounds with me, ha ha ha. Curses! Now I'm reduced to being a sparring partner. Morong Lai's face fell and sighed despite the excited Bali Yu coming at him in force. Morong Lai knew there was no stopping Zhuo Fan now and didn't feel like fighting. Though Bali Yu found herself with a divine sword for the first time and was too excited not to take it up for a spin, or 2-1 disappointed man and one excited woman clashed in a devastating battle. The world shook, the ground quaked, lightning roiled, and an inferno backed the skies. This Sword King level fight now got a boost in the form of divine swords, unleashing an upheaval upon the world around them, as if the end of days was upon this wretched world. Everything ceased to exist wherever the two ended up crossing swords, with plenty of other places ending up wrecked from just their auras. Such a battle had never been witnessed before, especially if one was sensible enough to care for their lives in front of such relentless destruction and onslaught. Morong Shui and Jue scrambled away the instant they knew things were about to go down, not even sparing a glance back at the incredible and equally deadly display of raw power. The explosions alone could deafen them permanently, though even the speedy escape proved to be slow, as many times they were about to be engulfed in the aftermath of a 1-2 strong clash, and remain here forever as corpses. Zhuo Fan vanished as the smoke and dust grew prevalent, giving Morong Shui no chance to find him. The battle had the added benefit of wiping his trail, with everyone stuck in finding out just who this mystery man was. Ahead of the billowing smoke stopped a carriage, and Zhuo Fan got in with Xiaoer before it went on its way. The guards glanced at Zhuo Fan, then at the upheaval outside with shock and doubt. Holy hell, sir, what happened? We just finished our business in Galefrost Town, and a hail of icicles struck, forcing us to flee. Then, just like Sir said, the whole town got wrecked, and we were worried about your safety. And now the world is going for destruction, with the skies filled with lightning and fire. Nothing to be concerned about. You just drive the carriage. Frigid Rain Sword King is only fighting Morong Lai. Zhuo Fan dismissed his worry with a smile. The others gasped at the news. Ardent Sun, Sword God Morong Lai! How on earth did you meet him? What happened? It's nothing. Just got in his sights. Zhuo Fan made light of things once more, but then he coughed blood. The others were panicking. Sir. Father, you... Xiaoer was worried. Zhuo Fan eased a breath and slipped a pill in his mouth from his ring. It's fine. I just settled a favor. We can go now. Xiaoer knew the truth and sighed. Hugging him in worry, the world around them still shook a lot. The shockwaves from 2 Sword Kings battling, spreading destruction in every direction. Only a carriage, pulled by 4 panicking 3rd-level spiritual beasts, was left. 10 days later, the wind and snow battered the road, with a sudden person flashing before a speeding carriage, easily slipping inside, seeing who was back. Everyone lit up. Miss Yu, you're finally back. Sir had been worried about you all this time, ha ha ha. Worried? Looking at the pale Zhuo Fan, Bali Yu smirked. He's better off looking after himself. He's the one hurt here, judging by that ashen face, right? Joie Fan smiled. My soul got a slight wound and will be fine in a month, to-ch idiot. Bali Yu shook her head, mocking him. You just had to use your soul against Morong Shue. Now look where it got you. Of course your soul will be damaged from her attack. Joie Fan chuckled. I wanted to return the favor, and the only way to do that was by taking her fatal blow.